Movies. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's great to see so many people here tonight. The council meetings really aren't that exciting. You must have another reason to be here tonight. I just want to call this meeting to order and review any items that are not listed on the agenda. Madam Clerk.
Your Worship, there was an addendum went out on Friday, which included 3 pieces of correspondence, 2 reports, a resolution, and a bylaw.
Thank you. Announcements. I'll start over here. Councillor Barton.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. It's great to see the council chambers full.
Yeah.
A great occasion for it to be full, and I don't think it's what's on the agenda 20 minutes later, but thanks for coming. So, the first thing on my list is Canada Day. It's next Sunday. It's going to be a very exciting night. So we have food trucks, the Second Wedge Beer Garden. Superman's going to be there. He's also in the audience. Don't tell anyone. It's a secret. The YDHR have a train for kids. We've got an animal show where there's a bunch of different exotic animals there. Horse and wagon rides. And then we've got Rock the Bridge. And Leah Daniels has decided to put this on again this year. We've got 6 finalists that will all perform a song. And then the winner from that event wins $500. And then they also get to play the next weekend at, what's it called again? The 105.5 concert. Hits Fest, there we go, at Hits Fest, which is fantastic. And we've got Ben Hudson playing, and we also have Matt Gunn. So it's going to be a fantastic event. And thanks for coming here. And if you could all just make sure you show up at Canada Day, that would be fantastic. Thanks.
Regional Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It's this time of year, and so I will announce tonight that I am not seeking re-election. The term is just too long. I can't commit myself for 4 years. So at this point, I'd just like to thank my colleagues. It's been wonderful working with these people. And to the staff here at the Township office, they've been great. Under the leadership of Ingrid and Debbie, you've done a great job with the staff. I know that because I've been to other places the size of Uxbridge, and they have a lot more staff that we have in this town. The other thing is, I want to take time to thank the paper. I want to thank you guys for coming out here every week and being fair. Thank you very much. And to the residents of this great community where I've lived all my life, I want to thank them for the support that they have given me all my life, not just the last 12 years. Our families, the Ballinger families, lived here. My father had a meat market, gosh, in the 40s on Brock Street, so it goes back a long time. So, to my colleagues that are running in this upcoming election, bonne chance. Merci beaucoup, and thank you to everybody.
In honor of Councillor Ballinger, I won't say anything, but thank you very much. I'll let those words hang. And thank you for being a mentor and a friend. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't usually get in the middle, but that's kind of a surprise for us tonight, so we weren't expecting that. But Jack, you've been an incredible representative of our township, both here and at the region. You've been a wonderful colleague to work with. We've learned a lot from you. You've done an amazing job. We appreciate all you've done all these years. But I want to point out, you still have a few more meetings you have to attend this year, right? You're not done yet. You're not done yet. Jack, thank you for all that you've done for us. And sorry, it was kind of a surprise tonight, so we don't have anything prepared for you, but we'll take care of that. Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. The new floor just got finished at Goodwood Hall. Yippee, this is great. It looks fabulous. This past week was a busy week. The AGM with Central Counties. One of our own businesses was highlighted, Second Wedge, at their AGM, and also an AGM at the food bank to learn about more what's going on in depth since an event that I'm involved with, Farm to Train. We actually get to see how the money's being spent that we've been able to donate to them. And Preston Gallery on Saturday was a lot of fun. The sledge I got to ride in a sledge and move around, and the art there, just absolutely amazing. Some of the artists just blow you away, and the photography that she's going to be able to offer is amazing. And Ruth Sheridan's 100th birthday, that was a busy place on Sunday, very busy. And I mean, I've known her since I was a young child, so it was an honor to be there. Tomorrow morning, if you've got nothing to do, we have our chamber breakfast at 7:15 at Boston Pizza. All are welcome. YDHR has a meeting tomorrow night, their monthly meeting, and if you're interested in volunteering with the train people, they're always looking for volunteers, which would be great. And do come out to Canada Day. It's a great event that we have planned, and I will see you there. Thank you.
Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't talk about the other things that we've talked about tonight that have already been mentioned. I just want to thank Jack for your service. Jack and I were elected, 12 years ago together? Doesn't seem that long. So Jack has served 2 terms as regional councillor. He started as the Ward 4 councillor. I was across the road in Ward 5. So Jack, you've been a good friend, a good colleague, a good mentor. And I wish you and Ellen and your family all the best in your future endeavors. But thank you.
Councillor Rona. Hit the button, Gary. Just hit the button. Gary's a little bit new here, so he's just getting used to his stuff.
Well, I haven't known Jack for that long, but he's certainly, I think, been a very strong representative for everyone. And wish you the best.
Great, thank you. So we've all been very, very busy. We've all attended most of these events. The sledge hockey was really fantastic. I got to tell you one thing about sledge hockey, though. It's not about shooting that puck. It's getting into that sledge. That's the problem, because it's like 2 inches off the ground. I got to tell you, getting in and getting out of it is tough. But anyway, Graham Baskin was there doing a demonstration as well. Is Colleen still? Oh, there's Colleen still here. So it was a great event. It was really nice to try, and hopefully we'll get a game here in town soon. They're going to work on that, so that's wonderful. Anyway, everything else has been mentioned. We'll carry on. You're all here because we're going to do a little presentation tonight to Kathy Christoff. I'll just come down in the front. I should wear this thing. Debbie says I should wear the chain. Laura's gonna do it. Anyway, Kathy, I just have a little certificate, a little thing we're going to read. Are you going to stand here? What's that? Oh, a little bag. This is new to me, too. Great. Are you going to stay here, Laura, for the photo op? All right, stay here. Kathy, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight to celebrate with us. As you know, Kathy's going to retire from 21 years of some incredible commitment to our community. I don't think she's going to stop. She's just going to find another direction, I'm sure. But she's done so much with the youth in our town and for so many fantastic community efforts in our town. She's done a wonderful job. I'm just going to read a little letter that we wrote. On behalf of the councillors and staff at the Township of Uxbridge, I'd like to offer our sincere thanks and appreciation to you for the contributions of the Roxy Kids in Action Club to our community. 21 years ago, you began a small program to encourage local youth to volunteer and discover the joy of helping others and contributing to their community. Did you expect so profoundly impact the lives of over 1,000 youth and so many more residents? Over the years, Roxy Kids have raised thousands of dollars for community groups and families in need, from the Roxy Kids Good Stuff sidewalk sale, who hasn't been to that, and popcorn sales at Canada Day. Your float is always a highly anticipated part of our Santa Claus parade. Long list of service groups that receive Roxy Kids support include the Uxbridge Cottage Hospital and their foundation, Operation Warm Hearts, Meals on Wheels, the Rotary Club, Salvation Army, and the Uxbridge Basketeers. The township is grateful for the Roxy Kid in Action contributions to our Canada Day celebrations, donations for the operation of our animal shelter, and for many parks, trails, cleanups over the years. The benefits this group brought to our community and the impact of the additional acts of kindness by the individual Roxy Kids over 21 years are immeasurable. Your efforts have inspired generations of young people to embrace volunteerism and giving, and that is perhaps the greatest legacy you leave behind. You have our respect, our gratitude for 21 years of outstanding community service. Thank you so much. And everyone involved with your group, thank you all. It's been a wonderful group and a fantastic tribute to you, Kathy. You've done a wonderful job. Can we just give you, if you wouldn't mind coming up, and you probably would like to say a few words. Kathy. There's this little certificate, Kathy. Okay. And just a little card signed by council and staff as well. I'll put it in here for you, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Now, you're hardly accustomed to it, but here's the mic.
I would like to first thank all the kids who came tonight, the Roxy Kids and their parents. I see past parents here. Without the parents' commitment to the Roxy Kids, to taking their children to and from our meetings, to and from our different events where we perform our acts of volunteerism, without their support, Roxy Kids in Action couldn't have been what it became. I heard from one of my Roxy Kids who's out in Nanaimo, who has started a youth group out there. I heard from another Roxy Kid who is down in Halifax and who is looking at starting a group down there. So that warms your heart when you see that it pays forward. But I have to also just quickly say to my family who is here tonight, and they have constantly, I call on them all the time to help me out with Roxy Kids. And, oh, he's awake. And not Mark, my grandson. He's awake too. Without their support, especially Mark, grudgingly I dragged him to everything. And then at the end of the day, he would, his heart would be just as warmed as mine, because he would say, wow, those kids are just amazing. So it was a gift for me. But there's been a lady by my side for a lot of those years, and that's Maggie McCreath. Thank you, Maggie. She is really my hero. She does more with one good arm and one good leg than I've seen a lot of able-bodied people do, and she doesn't let it slow her down in any way. And so she is a gem to the community, and she's a gem in my life. Then finally, I have to say to council, who have always been very encouraging to Roxy Kids, and for this recognition, yes, definitely. I don't take it lightly. As you can tell by my voice, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. But I do appreciate it. And yes, it does not mean that I will not be involved with youth. I am a Rotarian, and I am on youth and vocational, so I will still be working with youth, but just in maybe a less intensive way. And to some of you Roxy Kids out there, yes, I will be calling you to make blood donor cookies. Just saying. And then remember, our last job action is this Canada Day, selling popcorn. So hopefully we'll see a bunch of you there. But thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Maybe I could get all of council to come. Can we get all of council to come down for a little shot? Well done, Kathy. We'll get everybody down. I'd like to get all the council to come down and jump in this shot, if you don't mind. Come on down, everybody.
And then, to be honest with you, I would love to have the Roxy Kids. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? Let's get a big shot.
Yeah.
John, you just have to stand out in the parking lot to take this one. You might have a few in this picture. All right, we'll do one with council, and then we'll do Roxy Kids. How about that? Okay. That's great. Okay. We can move that, actually. You can hold that short, please. Are we good? Who's going first? There's Maureen, okay? Gail? We'll do some over there. We'll go next. We'll go at the end. Everybody else. My next grandchild. No, just have a photo. Wait one sec, John's gonna take one. John always wants to wait till the last, get it right. One of those?
Okay, Roxy Kids.
Kathy, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
We love you, way to go, thank you. All right, bring all the Roxy kids up and we'll get out of your way.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, okay.
Okay, Roxy Kids, come
Wow.
on down and we'll face that way. Come on in. Ready? Come on.
Maggie's in, there we go.
Fish in, fish in.
Are there any more out there?
Come on, you coming to come in and Lydia's help. Logan. Where's Chris?
That's great.
Where's Jenny? Right here. Yeah, no,
See if you can move back a little bit, ask Dave how to move that wire.
thank you so much for the other people waiting for their agenda item.
I think everybody's here for you. I don't think anybody's here for council. All right, everybody big smile.
Who first?
Okay. Boys, turn. All right.
Was Olivia, you okay?
All right, John's turn. One of those would be good, John. I'm just learning. There's Mark. Got one, Mark?
Thank you, Roxy Kids, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight to celebrate with us. You're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. No takers? Can't believe it. We'll just take a break for about 2 minutes if you want. We'll just, really, do you know, I'd really love to do something with them. We're going to try to get a game. All right, everyone, let's get rolling. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Our first delegation tonight is Matthew Burley, a request to host a skateboard contest at the Uxbridge Rotary Skate Park. Matthew, there you are. So Matthew, just hit the little gray button there in front of you. There you go.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Welcome. Yeah, great.
Perfect, thank you. All right, I'd like to start off by just thanking everyone for taking the time to listen to me tonight. My name's Matthew Burley. I'm 24 years old, and I'm the owner of a small business called MBS, which is a skateboard grip tape and apparel company. And I've come here tonight to ask permission to use the Uxbridge Skate Park for a skateboard competition on Saturday, August 4th. And I feel like this will be an important thing for the community in the near future, because last year I actually held the contest, and in my opinion it was a great success. We had approximately 50 attendees, and over 30 of them were actual participants in the contest. We had people coming from not only Uxbridge but all over Durham and York, from places such as Ajax, Oshawa, Whitby, and Port Perry. I would be hosting the contest with Mike Bahag of Switch Skate and Snow. He helped cover the insurance of the event last year. Mike has been holding skateboard contests for a number of years and has formed a great relationship with the townships of Ajax, Pickering, and Clarington, just to name a few. And so, as well as asking for permission for the park, permission to use the park, I'm going to be asking for permission to use it at no cost. And I am also going to be asking that the township can grant a donation of anywhere up to $200 to $300 for prizes that my company, MBS, and Switch Skate and Snow can provide for an at-cost price. So we would be making zero profit on them. We would just want to be able to provide them to the skaters. Last year this worked out quite well. We were able to get funding from the Rotary Club. But I'm going to ask the council again this year to provide a donation, due to the fact that I'm not going to be making any profit off of this contest. I will not be charging at the door. And last year I actually ended up racking up a slight debt having hosting the contest, and it would be much appreciated if the township could help cover that.
Great, Matthew. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you.
Any questions, anybody? Councillor Bryant.
Thank you for coming. I remember last year we came in, and that was the issue, was we couldn't make a donation if you were going to make a profit.
Right.
So first of all, I want to thank you for paying attention last year. That was great. And I think that this thing is fantastic. Certainly, I'm okay with it. I think things that bring people into town is wonderful, so I would certainly support what you're asking for. A lot of the times we take money for these things from what we call the Golf Fund.
Right.
I'm on the Golf Fund committee, so I can't make that recommendation, but I can certainly make a recommendation that we help you out with this golf skateboard park.
Perfect.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you. I'm glad that you came back. I would like to make that recommendation for it to go to the Golf Fund to see whether we could donate. I think it's a great thing. It's another event. It highlights our skate park. You might get people out that don't know it's there, or haven't been there, or been there enough. And it brings in people from outside into our town, and that doesn't hurt, so that hopefully they'll stay and go to a restaurant or whatnot. And I do think it's a really great event.
Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Do you partner with any food vendors or people selling any kind of materials or anything?
I had actually looked into that, but that was at the latter end of kind of the organizing of the contest, and I was not able to find someone with the proper food insurance, so we did not go through with any sort of vendors.
That was the issue. I'm just thinking if there is a deficit situation, as you mentioned, that could help offset it. I'm using Canada Day in past years as an example, where a food truck would come and they would make a donation, and then we would use that to help cover the cost. So something along those lines you might want to think about.
Right.
I'm not sure if you have enough time between now and your event, but you could probably make it happen, I would think. And they would have, exclusive rights or whatever to that particular venue, and then that way it would help offset some of your costs. So just something to think about.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank
Any other
you.
questions? Counselor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Matthew, insurance liability. You have it covered from your end?
Yes, that's why I've partnered with Mike. He's offered to do that for me, so that would be covered.
And you name the township as part of it?
Yeah,
in-
we can,
yeah.
we'll work that out.
Okay, yes.
Staff, any questions on this, please?
No, I was just gonna say, if council could refer it to Amanda, and she can decide where it's gonna go, but they'll need to make sure we get the appropriate insurance.
Thank you.
So we could just support this in principle, at this point in time. And somebody like to make that motion? You wanna do that one first? Okay, so Counselor Beach has referred the request to the Golf Fund. We'll deal with that motion first. Moved by Counselor Beach, seconded by anybody? Counselor Bryan, all those in oh, sorry. Counselor Barton, all those in favor? Carried. Now we'll, just deal with, supporting it in principle. Counselor Barton, seconded by Counselor Ballinger. No questions, all those in favor? Carried, great. Thank you, Matthew.
Awesome. Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much, everyone.
So you'll deal with our staff, you know who Amanda is?
Yes.
Okay, good. So deal with Amanda and they'll get it sorted out.
Perfect.
Perfect, thank
All right,
you.
once again, thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks for coming in, Matthew. Karen Hubner and Carl Hober, did I pronounce those properly? Was I close? You can just stand at the mic there if you like, or you can sit, the two of you in the front here, whatever you prefer.
Good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. We are here to dispute a fire, an open fire without a permit. We live just the beginning of come from Newmarket. We have 25 acres of woodland. We don't see the neighbor to the right, we don't see the neighbor to the left. During the last storm, the storm took over 100-foot tree and left a hole about 4 feet or 4.5 feet deep. Okay. So we started to cut down some branches and whatever was broken on the ground and a few blocks of wood and threw it down in the hole and made a fire. Now the fire hardly went above the earth because it was so deep. But somebody blew the whistle on us, which was a tenant who lives in our building. The fire marshal came, Mr. I think Scott Neal, or Neil Scott is his name. He came and he said, well, you're going to have to extinguish this. Okay. So we did. And the next thing we knew, we got an invoice for $420, which is a rather steep fine for fire, you know, that size. And it was not round, it was just like half moon, but it went down deep in the hole and burned there. Okay. So we asked the community kindly to waive this invoice. We're first-time offenders, I agree on that. Maybe we even broke the law here, but
From now on, we will have a fire permit.
we took a permit out the next day in case we make one. Maybe we don't make one anymore because we're too much afraid that somebody else is going to come, although we have a permit, but they find something else. See?
We didn't know that you really needed a fire permit. Honest, I have owned this
Okay.
land for 61 years, and I'm a widow now, and this is my new husband, and we do try very hard to keep this property nice. It would break my heart if I had to leave it.
Okay, thank you. thank you.
She is the registered owner.
Okay.
And $420, that's a heck of a lot of money.
Council, what would you like to do with this? Any questions? I would like to just point out that, it also costs the taxpayers to send our fire department out to deal with fires like that. So we have to pay people to go out and go to a fire
I understand.
like yours. And so it's really what it costs us just to deal with a
Yeah,
fire
well-
is part of the issue. And then one of the other issues is, it's not about smoke going to your neighbors, it's making sure that we don't have any fire bans on and making sure that you read the instructions on the back of the permit and call and make sure it's safe to have a fire. That's why we have the permits.
Yeah, we know that now.
Okay.
We wouldn't do another one without a permit, but 420, I mean, all I get is my old age pension, that's not a lot.
Okay.
And the taxes are high, and I do try very hard to keep this place.
Councillor Bryan?
Fire.
The councillor.
Just a,
Tell them.
hi, just a couple of points of
I
clarification.
almost pay $9,000 taxes, which is very difficult,
Mhm.
but I try and pay it on time, and like I say, this is the first time, and I wouldn't make another fire ever without having a permit.
Thank you, thank you.
Um,
Councillor Bryan?
Just a point of clarification. The fire department did not arrive, correct? It was just the bylaw officer? Or did the fire department come?
Just
Just
a
the fire
gentleman.
marshal,
No,
no truck.
Scott Neal came.
He's a bylaw officer, he's not a
He's
fire.
the bylaw officer.
Okay, so the bylaw officer came one day, and then you got a
Bylaw officer
fine the
came,
next day for $420.
And the funny part was, he was very friendly.
Mhm.
And we also have two witnesses that the fire was watched at all the time.
Was never without watching
Okay.
the fire.
And,
Okay, I think what we'll do now is we'll call up our fire chief, if you don't mind, and we'll just
Yeah,
sort
I
of
think
hear
the fire chief
his
was
side of the
there, not
story. And
Gordon.
our chief is here, Phil. I know he's been anxious to come up and,
oh yeah, we made an appearance at his place.
okay?
It was turned down.
Okay,
But he gave us a spot to hear our voices here.
okay. Can you come up? Could we have a motion? Well, I guess we don't need a motion. Staff, come on up, Phil.
Come on,
No, let him speak. Yeah. Sounds familiar.
Phil, can we just, sort of get the rundown, if you don't mind?
Live here,
Any of your comments would be appreciated.
live here.
So as a fire on their property, which was not in compliance with the bylaw, the fire department did in fact attend. The duty officer attended because a call was made to 911 and a complaint was received. And then Scott, the bylaw officer, subsequently attended at this address because the situation has accelerated into a landlord-tenant dispute, and he was called there for a noise complaint. So there has also previously been fire permits issued in other years to this property. So I would just ask, and correctly as the representatives indicated, they attended it here at the municipal office and talked to the clerk as well as to myself in our office. And I offered to make representations to the Treasury Department to make progress payments on the fine. This is the smallest fine that's contemplated in the bylaw. It's not exorbitant. And I would ask council if they would uphold the council bylaw, as they have in the past for these considerations. And I would point out at this present time, up until Friday, there are 1,066 burning permits issued for this year only in the township. If we look at past years, we'd expect perhaps 250 to 300 more permits to be issued this year. And to date, we've issued 8 invoices, 6 for not having a permit, and 2 for burning not in compliance with their permit. So I just would respectfully ask that, in terms of the integrity of the bylaw, that the fee be upheld.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions of the Chief? Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, just for clarity, Chief, you said fire responded, or was it bylaw that responded?
It was the fire department duty officer that responded initially, and subsequently a bylaw officer attended this address
So
as a complaint.
both went,
Yes,
but at
on
different
separate
times,
occasions.
separately. Okay, thank you.
It's up to council. Councillor Barton? Perhaps a good motion would be to, maybe have them work it out as the Chief has suggested, some payments, but
Yeah.
go ahead,
Yeah,
Councillor Barton.
so, I'll start with a question. What's your estimate on our costs on this so far as a municipality? Do you have I know that the rate that's put together by the province is what, $400 per truck per hour, right? Is typical?
Well, this bylaw doesn't actually contemplate recovering all our costs.
Oh, okay.
It's a per truck fee per hour. It's the $420 rate was the current rate in 2012, I believe. It hasn't been updated since then. I'd actually like to bring a report forward sometime this year to bring it up to the current rate, which is $470 an hour. So it doesn't actually recover our costs, and we don't charge, except in exceptional circumstances. The council will recall burning a large fire that got out of control, where we actually tried to recover all our costs. It was in the tens of thousands of dollars, but for the most part, this is just a fine for burning illegally, and it's only a one hourly charge per vehicle that attends the scene. And it doesn't contemplate all the different violations at a particular site. It's just one overall fee for the hour.
Okay. So,
So what we'd like to do with this, council, I would just like to, go ahead, Councillor Ballinger.
Chief, you have issued fire permits to this property before?
I have one now.
This couple has got a permit since, but we also have previously issued burning permits to this property, to tenants on this property before.
So, that's an important thing to me. They've already had permits before, so you must have known that you can't have an open fire without a permit if you...
No, that was not us.
That was a tenant.
Those
I
were
never
tenants
had one.
of ours.
I
We
mean,
had-
when I
that's
have a
correct.
tenant, I
Is
tell
that
them
fair?
all not to make no fires.
No, that's correct. Their tenants have previously
I would
purchased.
never make another
Yeah.
one.
Those were the
without-
times.
Are the same tenants there now?
Yes, but we have two witnesses that they stood by
Thank you,
this
Chief.
fire that we made. But instead of giving...
Okay, okay, sir, it's okay. Councillor Barton?
yeah, again, I feel for the residents, but I also think we need to support our bylaws and our department, who are desperately trying to prevent fires like this from getting out of hand. I think maybe a compromise could, so gives them months, you know, a year to pay this. It's a long time, but that should, I don't know, I'm struggling with this one.
Are you gonna make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll make a motion saying to spread the cost over 12
Can I
months.
have a seconder, please? Councillor Ballinger? All's in favor? Carried. So what's been decided is that the fine stays the same, but what we can do is spread out the payments over 1 year. But the fine remains the same, and I'm sorry, but fire is a very, very dangerous thing, and there's a lot of reasons why we need a permit, and there's 1,200 people in this municipality that do have permits, so that's been the decision of council. I'm sorry. So the fine remains the same, and you have a year to pay the fine, and you can sort that out with the Treasury Department. Okay? Okay, thank you for coming in.
Okay.
Our next delegation is Steve Snodden regarding the pump track Trillium Capital Grant application.
Thank you very much, Mayor Malloy, Council. It's a roller coaster meeting. Highs and lows. Well, hopefully this will get back on a high here. Barring any technical issues, which I'm sure we'll get over with Dave's help, we're going to watch a video, very brief, 1 minute 30-second video. I think most or many of you may by now know what a pump track is, but some time ago we put together a video compilation of what it could look like, what it currently does, what pump parks represent, and what we are envisioning for the Fields of Uxbridge. So just as way of filler until this gets running, we first introduced the concept of a pump park to council, and I'm going to stick to my notes for purposes to keep myself on track. No
We
pun
might need a
intended.
new IT guy over there, Steve, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
No, I think this is...
Okay.
Well, that's always good. Yeah. So we first introduced the pump park concept to council in, that is, I did on behalf of Rotary in 2012, and it has continued to be the intent of Uxbridge Rotary, and now with the Pump Park Committee to spearhead the construction of a 10,000 square foot hard surface bike park, pump park at the Fields of Uxbridge, directly adjoining the existing skate park. The first pump park, hard surface pump park, was introduced or was built in Chur, Switzerland in the year 2000. That's what got my attention. That's what initially inspired me to bring this idea forward. Hit it. Yep. After we built the skate park, that property that we effectively created a space to directly south of this existing skate park, which looked like it was perfectly suited to this kind of a facility. But at the time, actually, this didn't exist, or at least I wasn't aware of it. So in the year 2000, the first hard surface pump track was built. This is a facility that uses strictly inertia. So you'll see that these kids, adults using this, they're not pedaling. So the geometry of the berms and valleys creates momentum. So you'll see that it's actually almost forbidden that you pedal. So the whole idea is using core strength and an inertia, you can accelerate. So it's a progressive facility. So, and that is its biggest attraction. You'll see different ages, and as great as our existing skate park is, and it is fantastic, it has a fairly narrow appeal. That is, I can't use the skate park. I don't know about Dave. I don't know, yeah, hip replacement. So that bowl in our skate park is its greatest attraction, but it's also, it bars me from entry. I couldn't learn. This facility, though, this kind of a facility, I will be there. My grandchildren will be there. Matt will be there. All of his friends. The spectrum will be wide. So we can just transition. We'll just transition to PowerPoint. I've got just a few slides that we'll walk through. Okay. So the fact that we've been curtailed in our efforts here for one reason or another, I mean, most of it financing and all things happen for a reason, I guess, because in the meantime, since we first introduced this concept, the state-of-the-art of pump parks has progressed, and they have become, as I expected, a worldwide phenomenon. There are now parks, hard surface pump parks. We would have been the first in Canada. We would have been the first in North America. Now we won't be. In fact, maybe we don't want to be pioneers in this. It is now a proven concept. Back in 2012, we did up a mock concept drawing. All it intends to do is to illustrate the space that we're talking about. This concept is really probably a long ways from what would be built, but it does show you in scale where the existing skate park is, and to the left, that's south, so well, you can see Main Street there, and you can see the berm that we envisioned. The town has actually built and planted trees there now. So that wasn't there when we did this concept, but the town has now put a berm there and planted trees. So it is a 43,000 square foot space, just by measurement. We are proposing within that space 10,000 square feet of paved pump track. You can see we envisioned some additional parking. It's limited additional parking, again, because of the build-out of the Fields of Uxbridge. Ultimately, there should be plenty of parking, and because of the people that we're attracting to this facility will be on a bike or on wheels of some kind, having to move about the property to find parking shouldn't be a huge hardship. The intended parking as per the master plan should help to augment the additional parking that we're proposing. we also would contemplate the addition of lighting in the future. So we would hopefully service it properly so that if and when we are able to light this whole facility based on money and permission, that it would already be wired. So if we could just go to the next slide, Dave, if you're going to do that for me too. This is more of a real-world example of what a pump track would look like, and in fact, this is in Ontario. And what's important about this also is that it was built not by the original builder in Switzerland, who is still the world leader in building these things, but this was built by Ontario Bike Parks, a guy who's trying to very much emulate the model of Velo Solutions out of Switzerland. He studied their techniques, in fact copied them, and this was built Rotary sponsored, and I think I'm not going to say what town it is, but it was built by Ontario Bike Park somewhere in Ontario. But that's much more, as opposed to the concept drawing, this is more what it would end up looking like. There is some grass space you can see. We try to limit that because it is a bit of a negative in that grass would blow onto the track and have to be blown off, and it would be higher maintenance. So we'll try to limit the amount of grass. We may have some other ideas, but it would very much look like that, and it is intended to attract skateboards, bikes, inline skates, and all types of bikes as well. The next slide. This concept ticks a lot of boxes, I feel, for the Fields of Uxbridge and for the town of Uxbridge. It would be greater than the sum of the two parts. By adjoining a pump park to the skate park, it becomes a destination, a true destination park. It would, as I said, dramatically increase the demographic profile attracted to the facility, bringing young and old from near and far. It would be on demand, which is, I think, some of the master plan, the questionnaire that you did said that people want things that are on demand, where they don't have to join a team, don't have to wear a uniform, don't have to pay an annual fee. This will be on demand without supervision, as is the skate park. So you can just go and ride. And it would be a 3-season. I think you'll see that like the skate park. If there's not 4 inches of snow, they're riding almost every day of the year. And it perfectly, I think, leverages the existing space. So, we're talking about additional soccer fields, ball diamonds, swimming pool. This is something that's very much doable today with the infrastructure that is there, and it, as I say, complements what's there. Next slide. We talked about, maybe I missed something there, I hope not. I know that maintenance is and should be a concern for council. You don't want to be left with maintenance issues in the future. So we looked at the potential costs that could be involved. The current skate park is budgeted for $5,000 a year for grass cutting, garbage pickup, and graffiti repair. I don't think that is actually being spent, but that's the budget. The addition of the skate park or the pump park would be an incremental cost. I don't think that it's going to be by any means double. So if you're going there to cut grass already, you're going there to pick up garbage already. So I think it's an incremental additional cost. We talked to the manager of the pump park in Chur, Switzerland, and they've had no maintenance issues, unforeseen maintenance issues. But we do contemplate and think about, well, what could happen to pavement, assuming that the foundation is sound, frost resistant, contemplate any short-term issues. But you could consider perhaps resealing, and what could be the highest cost of resealing, and kind of doubled it and say, well, so $5,000 to reseal 10,000 square feet, potentially. I don't think so, but potentially. and then resurfacing, and we're looking at, and how do we say 15 years. Well, Dave, if you could just go to that next slide. This is that's Wooden Sticks, right? And it's 19 years old. And I don't know what they did to prepare their golf cart tracks there, but I'm guessing it wouldn't be as arduous a procedure as what we would do for the pump park. But they must have been fairly well done. Those golf cart paths at Wooden Sticks look as good as the day they were put in. But thinking about worst case, we're saying, okay, after 15 years, perhaps a resurface or even a complete repavement could be contemplated. But I think it is a given. Well, maybe it shouldn't be said a given, but the foundation needs to be absolutely sound, and I think that's where, the builders, the guys who have done this many times now around the world, would stand us in good stead in terms of foundation and drainage. Okay, so that's where we came up with these costs of $20,000 for resurfacing, $40,000 to $50,000 in the case of a complete repavement. So slide 8, the budget. So we've had quotes over the years, and now it is years now, but the most recent quote was unsolicited. That it's out there now that we're considering it. So I had an unsolicited quote and an illustration drawing using our dimensions, because they asked for our dimensions, and they asked for because we've done some, we have a survey site based on the skate park. We know what some of the details of the ground and so on, and I provided that, and they came back with a cost of $275,000. Well, I'm saying that's probably at the low end, so we are allowing for a cost of $325,000 to build the 10,000 square foot hard surface. $20,000 I'm saying for additional gravel parking, and some simple basic bench, picnic table, $5,000. So that gives us a number of $350,000. The thing about this space is that we can build it for future expansion. So we'll build it to suit the budget. So if we had $600,000, we could spend $600,000. If we have $350,000, we can build a good park for $350,000. So slide 9, if you can get that to Dave. Okay. So we're going to go to the fundraising budget.
Wrap it up as quick as you can, Steve. It's just that we have a planning meeting at 8, so we want to make sure we're done.
Yep.
We have to do that.
So no, we're there. So the fundraising budget, as you may recall, Rotary had made a commitment of $75,000. We have looked for partners, and we have partnered over time and kept in the loop the Uxbridge Optimists. We've asked the township for $75,000. We have a number of $40,000 for fundraising, which sometimes it can sound high, but we haven't even begun to solicit funds from private or corporate fundraising, and we've already had offers of capital. I think we will get halfway there quickly, and the other half will probably look to things like buying of bricks, buying of putting your name on the surface, things that worked well at the skate park. We'll do again. We could have specific fundraising events to raise money for this, but I think corporate money will come to the fore when we have a build date and a definitive, we are going to build this thing. Because as I say, we haven't begun to look for those kinds of money, given that we couldn't give money back. We didn't try to raise it in the first place. And we will be applying, assuming that we get approval here, we intend to apply for the upcoming Trillium Capital Grant for $150,000. So that's how we get to our 350. The asterisk is, if that's the plural for asterisks, the asterisks beside Rotary and the primary partner denote that as given the uncertainty of the build date over the years, neither Rotary nor the Optimists have built up a capital reserve to fund this commitment. So what I'm asking for is a 3-installment bridge financing approach. So that would be those commitments divided into 3, stretching over 2 years. Would it be? It would be one payment on the confirmation that we're going to build this, one payment on the completion of the build, and one payment, and for Rotary, an additional payment at the 1-year anniversary of the build is what I'm proposing. The commitment is firm, but at this point, the service clubs are concerned that all their other commitments would have to be pushed aside, and so that's why they're asking for this installment approach.
All right. Are you done?
Well, pretty much.
Well, we've read, to be fair, we've read all this. You've
Yes.
you've provided all this information to us,
Yes.
and we've all read it already,
Yeah.
so we're well aware. I think the only
So-
change has been, is in the financial support, which is, as I understood from Rotary, 25,000 in 18, 25,000 in 19, 25,000 in 20, and from, the other service club, 5,000 in 18, 5,000 in 19. So essentially, we would only be financing the 25,000 for the 1 year.
The Optimists are offering a longer-term commitment, but that doesn't serve our purposes. You know, we'll take the money, I'm sure, if there's still ongoing needs at the park, but it doesn't perhaps serve your purpose in terms of stretching things that long.
Okay.
And I understand that. We would want to narrow the window. Optimists in writing have said that they would like to compress the window.
Good.
But that's as much as they're prepared to say.
Understood. Questions, council? Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. When you talked about phasing, I know you arrived at the 350 as a sort of kickoff type park. Is there a way to scale that back even further and then have allowances for, 2 or 3 years out kind of thing, adding on another piece of track, or is that?
Well, it was never.
Or do you start with something that's probably not useful enough to even start with, right?
I think you've answered the question, Gord. It was always originally the intent for this to be a destination.
Right.
And in order for it to be a destination, I think that's basically your saw-off point.
Okay.
I think anything less would be, okay, but not a destination.
Not enough.
So we are stretching to get to that, making it world-class right off the bat. Now, there is potential to leave room for additions, but like we allowed for a canopy there, a storm shelter. But I think it's possible. As I said, that one quote came in at 275,000, but I'm leery of a low quote.
Yeah.
So,
well, you mentioned the commonality of the parking lot. Is there a way you had a pavilion picture up there. Is there a way to sort of put that so that it's equally shared between skate park and pump park?
I think, in fact, with the use of landfill, we would elevate that pavilion. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know, but I envisioned it being slightly elevated so that you could see both facilities.
Right.
And that's kind of why it was positioned where it was positioned. That was the intent.
Like, as you know from the pump, not the pump track, the Parks Master Plan, that we're on shared facilities. And if you've been up and seen the new soccer facility, which is awesome.
No, I haven't seen the soccer facility. I
there's
was
a
there
way
last
that-
week, but I didn't see the soccer.
If there's a way that other groups or attraction to that area could use multiple facilities, to me makes more sense, rather than having, there's the skate park group over there and soccer over here, and you know what I mean? So it's kind of commonalities amongst shelters. There's a beautiful shelter there. If you haven't seen it, go up and have a look at it. It's basically.
Oh, I've seen the shelter in the washroom.
Those
I haven't
kinds of
I
things
haven't
where
toured
kind
it.
of anybody can use if they just happen to ride their bike out there and they want to.
The pavilion was
shade, right? They just sit under these things, right? So.
the pavilion is not a must-have. That wasn't that's not in the price.
But all I'm saying is, whatever you build, it kind of has to flow across.
Well, the
whole
washrooms
park,
will
right?
certainly be perfect for this. The parking, as I say, I don't think we need to.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
So
those are
the
shared.
upfront cost, when would this start, assuming all the ducks were in a row? Do you have
Build construction season next year would
next
be,
year? Okay.
would be what we, with the Trillium funding, with the Trillium funding, we would hope to, have it to tender this winter
This winter?
and, build construction season next year. I mean, that would be the intent.
So you're looking today for the commitment for basically that 100,000 to carry you through till next summer? Is that what
It's
I'm
more than
hearing?
that, actually. We're committing 75.
75
We're-
from the
We're
town
essentially
plus the
bridging
bridge.
another
And then
85.
Bridging the other piece, right?
Yeah.
Well, there'll be some immediate funds coming from Rotary, right? So it's not,
Yeah,
you're not.
okay.
you're
Yeah,
not-
we're just bridging the 85. We're just putting the money up for the 85. You're gonna come back with 25 this year, 25 next year.
Yeah, almost immediately. So it's
Yeah.
just it's a commitment, but
Yeah.
the real money,
Maybe-
real money
yeah.
would come from Rotary this
Well,
year.
maybe
and
I'll
nothing
defer to
else.
the Chair of Finance and Treasurer. I'm not sure where we stand financially, so maybe you could answer that.
Well, I can tell you that last year, we referred this to the, referred this to the budget, on the wish list for the budget for 2019. That's where it stands, $75,000 we committed. The, loan part wasn't part of at the time. This is new. Any other questions for Steve? One thing I would like to say, Steve, I know we did with the animal shelter, we were quite concerned when it came down to the, corporate, fundraising part of it.
Yeah.
As to, we'd like to see that, I think, before you throw that out there. You know, we just had issues, that we don't want someone naming the building and those sorts of things, so we'd probably like to see that before you go ahead with that, okay?
Oh, absolutely.
d-
Yeah,
yes.
I would love to make your day and say that, yeah, we got $100,000.
Be great.
Can we rename the park? You know, yeah. But I know, I hear you.
Okay.
We.
As long as you get it, that's cool.
Yeah,
Any other
absolutely.
questions for Steve? Counselor Bryant?
Sir, I guess I'm a little bit confused on this, Steve, because
Yes.
I was under the impression that, we were to come up with 75 and then 25. I didn't know we were supposed to fund the whole thing. That's not how I understood it. Perhaps Councillor Barton can explain this to me.
75
Steve can.
and 25.
Well,
ahead,
Councillor
Steve.
Barton's the one who told me how it worked, so I'd rather have him clear it.
Okay.
So, the only money we're holding for the last year is the 25 that we're basically lending to the Rotary Club. Everything else gets paid as soon as the park's done.
Well, there'll probably be some engineering costs and that sort of thing in the beginning. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is that we're getting set 25,000 in 18, 25,000 in 19, 25,000 in 20 from the Rotary
Yeah.
Club. We're putting $75,000 away for 2019,
Right.
which is when, or whenever.
Yeah.
And 10,000 more will be financed over 2 years, right? 5,000 each year. Isn't that correct? That's how you explained it to me earlier today, so
So it's, the Rotary Club are spreading it over 18, 19, and 20.
right?
So the only money that we're really lending to them, by the time the bills
Yeah.
come in, the park's done, we'll have 50,000 of the Rotary money, the only leftover piece is the 25.
Exactly, I'm just saying, we still have to commit that money now,
Oh, yeah.
because we don't know what's gonna be spent early or late or whatever, and
Okay.
you have the 10,000 over 2 years
Okay.
from, right? Okay, Counselor Ballinger.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Steve, the Trillium grant, that's the question mark to
Mm.
me.
Oh, yeah, it's,
Who would be writing that, grant for you?
well, I mean, it's essentially written without much critique. I mean, I've written a lot of text based on, you can go on and do a mock. You can
I'm familiar
yeah,
with
yeah.
it, because I did it
So-
for the Legion, so I'm
Yeah.
asking who's writing the grant for this. It'll be yourself?
Well, myself and Deirdre Gibson, who does a lot of that for a living.
Okay.
Deirdre is the upcoming president of Rotary, and
Okay.
her business is as a consultant, her and her husband, and they have a lot of experience with grants. So she'll be wordsmithing and critiquing, and I assume we'll be working with Ingrid and the
And
town.
the intake is when?
The deadline is August
15th, I think.
Okay,
some-
okay, thank you.
But it is written to the large.
Are there any other questions? So we're gonna need a motion then that's gonna say that we support the project and the financing that's been suggested, if you're interested. That's where we're at. This is, it sort of preempts the budget for 19, but I think we're at the point now where we have to make a decision. Counselor Ballinger.
I'll give you that motion. I think it's, from what I've seen and, the work that's gone in up to now, I think it's a wonderful thing to happen up there at the Fields of Uxbridge. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Counselor Bryan. So what the motion's gonna say is that we support the $75,000 commitment to the, pump park from the Township of Uxbridge. We will set aside $75,000 which will be paid back, $25,000 in 2018, $25,000 in 2019, $25,000 in 2020. And we'll also set aside an additional $10,000, which we paid back, $5,000 in 2018, $5,000 in 2019. Okay? Didn't you get all that? Okay, we can sort, we're good. Okay, are there any other questions of the motion? All's in favor? Carried. Thanks, Steve, thanks for coming in, you're good.
Thank you.
Good luck. We are gonna go into, a public planning meeting right now, and, at this point in time, I'd like to turn the, chair over to, Councillor Hyatt, Chair of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor Malloy. I will call to order Planning and Economic Development Committee and ask if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. There being none, this is a statutory public meeting which is being held pursuant to the Planning Act, RSO 1990, to consider an application by 2452595 Ontario Limited, otherwise known as the Venetian Group. The applications propose a development with 61 townhouse units that would be implemented by means of a plan of subdivision in combination with a common element condominium. The common element condominium includes only those areas of common interest, including private roads, private wooded areas, visitor parking, and a servicing easement block. The townhouses would be located on freehold blocks. Replace the existing zones of the subject site with holding residential medium density and environmental protection zones to permit the proposed townhouse development. The subject lands are designated residential area and environmental constraint area in the Township of Uxbridge official plan. The subject lands are zoned holding residential first density exception number 38, residential cluster, holding residential multiple density exception number 21, and environmental protection exception number 70 in Township Zoning Bylaw number 81-19. The subject lands are located on the north side of Reach Street, east of Coral Creek Crescent, having the municipal addresses of 231 to 249 Reach Street, and are legally described as parts of Lot 28, Concession 7, Township of Uxbridge. Excuse me. The Planning Act governs the giving of public notice at various steps in the application process, which the township must comply with. Any person may attend a public meeting and make representations in response to the proposed development. All information, including personal information, opinions, presentations, reports, documentation, etc., provided for or at a public meeting are considered public records pursuant to Section 27 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This information may be posted on the Township of Uxbridge website and or made available to the public upon request. Questions about this collection should be directed to the Director of Legislative Services, Clerk Debbie LaRue, at 51 Toronto Street South, Uxbridge, Ontario, L9P1T1, or by calling the Clerk's Department at 905-852-9181, extension 228. The Township often receives requests for notification above and beyond what is required by the Planning Act. The Clerk's Department does not have the resources to respond to these requests, especially when the requests are general in nature. Therefore, if a request for notification is received by the Clerk's Department, they will notify persons as required by the Planning Act. If a person would like to receive notice of an approval, that person must make a request in writing to the clerk or provide their name and contact information on the request sheet available at this meeting, which I believe Debbie will be out on the front desk. Reception desks? Okay, thank you. Persons who make this request would also be notified of any council meeting at which it is proposed that a decision will be made by council on the active matter, and no other notification will be given. The Township has made available other ways in which residents may keep themselves aware of matters being considered by council. These include calling your ward councillor, checking the Township website at www.town.uxbridge.on.ca, by reading committee and council agendas, which are available in the Clerk's Department at Town Hall, usually by no later than the Friday prior to a committee or a council meeting, or by calling the Clerk's Department to inquire as to the status. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding. So how we'll start this evening, the applicant Yes. Sorry,
Yeah,
Liz.
sorry. I just think because this is a plan of subdivision and plan of condominium,
Mm-hmm.
that we should note that if there is a requirement for information on either of those matters, that it should be made to the regional planning department,
Okay.
and specifically to Laurie Riviere-Dorison, who's the principal planner
Okay.
there, and that information was in the notice, her address. And if there are written objections or written submissions to be made with respect to the plan of subdivision and plan of condominium, it should be addressed to the planning division at the region of Durham.
Okay, thank you, Liz. So any persons wishing to make written or oral submissions on the subject should give their name, address, postal code to the clerk, ask their questions to the chair, that's myself, or file a written submission. So we're going to start with the applicant. They're going to give us a brief summary on what they're proposing. At that point, we'll open it up to questions from committee, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. Go ahead, sir.
I'm here tonight with Morris Banakdar, who's president of the Ontario Limited company that owns the property, and I will refer to it as the Venetian Group. This is north is to this side, but this is the Kennedy Thomas development. This was the plan that was presented at the public meeting a couple of years ago, and the final draft approval was for 51 one-car garage townhouses, private condominium road, visitor parking, 2 open space blocks on approximately 0.95 hectares, or about 2.3 acres. And the Kennedy Thomas property had frontage of about 56 meters on Reach Street. And the approved development had a density of 24.6 units per hectare. This is a plan that was prepared by Cosburn Naboris, well-known landscape architects of the proposed development. In June 2017, the Venetian Group acquired the Kennedy Thomas property together with 5 additional properties. And planning applications, including all required supporting documentation, were submitted to the region and the township and are the subject of this public meeting. We did just have a healthy discussion at the open house, and I'm estimating about 30 or more people attended. I did hand out at that meeting 15 copies of the summary of the reports and plans, and everyone who asked received a copy of my business card. And I've encouraged anybody that has questions following tonight's meeting, if they want, they can give me a call, and if there's more information or things that I need to research a little further, I can do that. So I'm, as I explained at the meeting, I'm the planning consultant. I'm somewhat of the quarterback of the consulting team. And the consulting team's comprised of Hunt Design, so they did the site plan and the townhouse elevation plans. Saber & Kimball, they're an engineering firm that did the functional servicing plan, stormwater management. Beacon Environmental undertook environmental concerns, including the establishing with the assistance of the Conservation Authority the boundaries of the woodlot. And they've also been out recently doing bat monitoring, because bats are now an endangered species. Earthworks Archaeological Services undertook an archaeological study, and the province's Ministry of Tourism and Culture and Sport has already accepted the findings of that study. HTC is an engineering firm that undertakes noise impact studies. NextTrans undertook a transportation impact study. Palmer Environmental undertook a hydrogeological study. Erdl was the project surveyor, and my firm was the planning consultant, and we prepared a planning analysis that sort of summarized all of these aforementioned reports. So, on this plan, the underlying plan was the site plan.
Sorry, could I just ask your name? You've
Oh,
said
sorry, did I
everything. You've
say that?
introduced yourself very well,
Say
but the
it.
clerk doesn't need your name.
My apologies. Michael Smith of Michael Smith Planning Consultants. Getting ahead of myself. Earlier I referred to the Kennedy Thomas plan, and I thought for context I'd show in a red line the boundary of that property overlaid on the Hunt Design Plan, which is the subject of this public meeting. So again, this depicts the boundary shown in red. This is the plan then, that's before council and before you tonight. Like the Kennedy Thomas development plan before it, it proposes freehold lots with fronting on a common element private road. So each of the landowners that front on that public road will become members of a common element condominium corporation. They'll look and ensure that look after and ensure that the maintenance of the roads, snow plowing, things like that are looked after. In this plan, we propose that the common elements also would include the 2 woodlot blocks. Subject land has an area of approximately 3.6 hectares, almost 9 acres. It has 243 meters of frontage, almost 800 feet on Reach Street. The plan has been designed and is to be marketed as an adult lifestyle development, whereas the Kennedy Thomas plan had 51 units. This plan has 61, what my client describes as luxury upscale bungalow loft townhouses. Plan would yield a density of 17 units. So again, the Kennedy plan was 24.6 units per hectare. This is 17 units per gross hectare. It does as well, though, conform to the density policies in the township's official plan. So out of this site plan, I then develop 2 plans. This would be the subdivision plan. So all lands on the property form part of the subdivision. The lots themselves are in the brown color, and the common elements are the woodlots in green and the gray roads as shown. So when the common element condo application is submitted, it just refers to the gray and the green areas. These are the elevation plans that were prepared by the Hunt Design, and this is the smaller of the 2 townhouse lots. And moving on, this is the larger of the townhouse lots. These are the 36-foot townhouse lots, and you find these on the west, on the north, and on the east sides of the perimeter of the development. The interior and the units fronting onto Reach Street are the smaller units. In researching the market and also taking into account comments that were raised during the public meetings on the Kennedy Thomas development, the Venetian Group determined that townhouses should be 1 story in height with lofts within the roof structure. Now in marketing terms, these may be considered 1 1/2 story, but in zoning terms, they're 2 story. And from a zoning bylaw point of view, that's the way I look at it. Each unit will have a basement. Each townhouse will have 2-car garage. This allows for 2 cars in each garage. The larger lots, type A, would also have 2 cars in each driveway. And the smaller lots will have 1 additional visitor parking space, either in a designated on-street parking area or in a small parking area at the north end of the site. And each will have 3-meter wide aprons behind the buildings, which I would think typically would be used for short-term visitation, again allowing a form of temporary parking. This is akin to visitor parking on each of the small unit lots. And there would be no sidewalks on the streets abutting the smaller lot garages. There is a provision in the current zoning on the Kennedy property which states that where a required parking space is provided in a garage, the parking shall be maintained and be available for use as a parking space. And my client is agreeable to that provision in the zoning bylaw. And finally, there's no parking on Reach Street. So again, there's 2 sizes of townhouses. The type A, those of you that picked up copies of the map, you will note that the dimensions of these lots, of these houses, including the area of those units, is found in those plans. So we have the type A, which are the 11-meter, 36-foot widths, again on the west, north, and east boundaries, and then the 7.62 meter, which are the 25-foot internal and along the Reach Street boundary. Again, these are larger than typical 6-meter townhouses and large by industry standards, at least in my experience. The individual units will have floor areas of approximately 210 square meters, or just over 2,200 square feet in the larger units, and 200 square meters, or just over 2,100 square feet in the smaller units, again with basements. Target prices are $900,000 for the larger units, $700,000 for the smaller units. The price will vary depending upon whether the purchaser excuse me, requires finished basements and add-on upgrades. And some subject to grading constraints, some of the units will be designed to ensure accessibility. So in preparing the site plan, there were different design considerations. On this first slide, hopefully it's not too hard to see, but there are some yellow areas and blue areas in close proximity to the woodlands. And what we've tried to do is find a balance between impacting the woodland and finding a functional design, an efficient design for this development. So the result of this exercise is that the yellow areas are those areas that would be removed from the woodland, and the blue areas are those that would be added, such that the net area is equal. We haven't got to the point of doing a detailed landscaping plans or an arborist report at this point. But this was one of the factors that went into the design, including, as I said earlier, the staking of the two woodlots. Along the north edge, we haven't changed the length in the common boundary, so the same boundary that was draft approved for the Kennedy-Thomas plan is the same boundary that is on this plan. Again, we're protecting the woodlot in the northwest corner, the woodlot on the northeast corner, maintaining a 9-meter rear yard setback to the main part of the houses. We've reduced the number of units, so in the Kennedy plan, I think the final product was about 9 units, and we've brought that down to 5 on this side of the one street and 1 on the other side, so 6. So there's been a reduction in the number of units along the north limit. Again, we're looking at bungalofts, so that's a maximum of 2-story, but where the second story is in the roof. And again, I think that's an improvement over the 3-story proposed by the Kennedy-Thomas plan. The other feature in this is we've eliminated the emergency access that was to go through the block that fronts on Village Green. And that will now, it still serves as a conduit for the sanitary sewer and the water main, but it will now be a walkway instead of a vehicle access for emergency vehicles. We've been able to do that by creating a second access point onto Reed Street. Again, on the east side, the woodlots will be protected. We've brought a pedestrian sidewalk connecting Village Green through the development and out to Reed Street in close proximity to the trail to the golf course. And again, it includes those trade-off areas as I mentioned earlier. On the south limit, again, we have 2 points of access to Reed Street for better traffic circulation, and it removes the need for the emergency access. Units are located close to and facing the street, providing a strong street edge with ease of access to the street. All vehicular traffic is from the internal street. And it provides overlook on the street, which is a desirable planning objective. We refer to it as CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design. And then on the west side, we have a 7.5 meter setback to the houses. We've proposed on the landscaping plan additional landscaping to soften the interface with the between the existing and the proposed development. So that provides a summary of the subdivision. Just quickly, policy overview. Province encourages through the growth plan and the PPS to intensify within settlement areas and on services, and this site is within the service area and is proposed to be on services. The region's official plan designates the property as living area. Township's official plan designates it as residential, with the woodlots being environmental protection area. And the use of the property, in our opinion, for residential purposes is consistent with the PPS and conforms to all applicable policies. What we've done is to then provide a quick summary of the zoning provisions that would be required to implement this development. So, again, first of all, permitted uses, we'd have conservation, forestry, reforestation or similar passive uses that provide for preservation and management of natural environment, and non-motorized trail uses or similar low-intensity recreational uses in the woodlot blocks. And I'm speaking now of the holding environmental protection exception number zone. Trails and other small-scale structures accessory to the trails, including boardwalks, informational signage, footbridges, and fences, would be permitted. And I believe those phrases are taken directly from the Kennedy plan. We provide for the appropriate minimum zone provisions, including, excuse me for a second, let me back up. Jumped ahead. With the holding residential multiple density, we've looked at the number of units, maximum 61, lot area 3.6 hectares, frontage 243 meters, interior side yards minimum 7.5. The rear yard would be 9 meters, landscaped open space 3 meters, dwelling unit widths 7.6 and 10.9, and minimum driveway length from the private right-of-way is 6 meters. I should point out, as I understand, the town deals with these types of development as a whole block. So those first few provisions down to the number of units down to the rear yard are taken as the site as a whole. And then the others relate to the individual aspects. There would be a separation between dwelling units of 1.2 meters and obviously 0 where the units are attached. Height maximum, we're proposing again a lower form of housing, so we're proposing 9.5 meters to the mean average of the roof. A visitor parking, we have with a 7.6 meter lot, we've provided 1 in the garage. We have 15 visitor parking spaces, as I said. And with the 10.9 meter lots, when I say provided 1 in the garage, I'm proposing that 1 required parking be in the garage and 2 in the driveway in that case. So we have no additional requirement for visitor parking with these double car and double wide driveways. The parking spaces per dwelling unit, as I said, is 1 in the garage. For the small 10.9 meter lots, would have 1 in the garage and 2 in the driveway. And as with any development, as we go through the process, sometimes other issues or provisions have to be dealt with, and including possibly in this case the rear apron parking on the smaller townhouse lots. So there will be other changes as we go through different modifications, if necessary, to this development. So just leaving you then again with the Cosburn landscape plan. In conclusion, the proposed development is consistent with or conforms to provincial policy, conforms to the regional and township policies, it's in the public interest and represents good planning. We believe it's a significant improvement over the previously approved, draft-approved plan, and hope that the public and council will see it that way. If approved, site development would commence likely sometime in 2019, with house construction sometime either late 2019, summer of 2020. Ideally, we'd like to see the construction finished in about 6 months, but more realistically, it'd probably be about a year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll open it up to questions from committee. Mayor Malloy, sorry, I might tongue-tied here.
Thank you, and through you. I just want to clarify the parking issue again. We've had
Yes.
this discussion. If you go back a slide or two, I think you had some notes there.
This one? Or?
Yeah, so the smaller lots, you're saying there's 1 parking spot in the garage and 1 in the driveway. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is there's 1 in the garage, for the smaller ones,
Yep.
there'd be 1 in the, there's 2 car garages. I'm asking that 1 be considered for the garage, and then there would be the possibility of parking on the apron behind the garage. That may be more of a temporary type parking, and then we have 15 visitor parking spaces.
Sorry, if I have one of these homes, large ones or small ones, it's a double car garage.
Yes.
Can I park 2 cars in front of the garage?
Not on the 7.6 meter lots, no.
Okay, so we have a problem with that.
Okay.
All right. And the other ones, you've got, the 10.9 meter lots, you've got well, that's a double car garage.
Yes.
So you've got 2 cars, you could have 2 cars in the garage and 2 in the driveway on those?
That's correct.
Okay, so our issue's gonna be with the smaller lots. We're just actually getting a copy of the bylaw now
Yes.
to bring it to you, okay.
Next. Councillor Bryan?
Yeah, sorry, just,
Talking about his zoning bylaw provision.
sorry, Mike, I have a question. I'm kinda confused on that. So if it's a double car garage, does that, I mean I can park 2 cars in front of the garage?
If it's a double car garage on the 10.9 meter
Yeah?
lot, yes, there's two cars that can be parked in the driveway in front of the garage. If it's a smaller, there's an apron which is perpendicular to the garage where you can park on that, and I saw that more as like a temporary, more
Okay.
like a visitor type parking.
So you would have 2 spots still inside the garage, but you
Yes.
only have 1 spot outside?
Yes,
So in theory, you would have 3 spots for that, for the smaller house, 4 spots for the bigger house?
that's right.
Okay. Right? That's always wasn't clear on.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Burton?
Could you go back, Michael,
Yes.
one slide? Oh,
No,
oh,
this-
sorry, forward. Go forward 2 now. There we go. So, my question is how it affects the neighbors. So, for the lots that are to the north,
Mm-hmm.
how far are the existing houses on Village Green? How far are they from your lot line? And then how close are the current townhouses there to the lot line?
I don't have, the information in terms of the existing houses.
Okay,
I can undertake to get that, but
Okay.
I'd need, for a detailed answer, I'd need example surveys, possibly.
yeah, just the way I always look at it is, you know, it's one thing to move from having woods behind your house because you don't own that land, but then when the lot line, the houses are closer than your current lot line, and you say you've got a swimming pool in your backyard and the houses are looking right into your pool, that's even worse for your privacy. That's always my concern, and I have the same concern on Reach as well. So on the east and the west, how close are your these houses to the houses there?
I'm sorry, to the,
So
to the
let's
existing
start-
houses on the lots to
Yes.
adjacent?
Yeah,
I don't have that information.
okay,
We're showing 7.5 meter rear yards,
yeah.
but I don't know where the proximity of those other houses is. So I'll
Okay.
undertake to get that information.
That'd be fantastic, thanks
Yeah.
for that information.
Councillor Rona?
Yeah, thank you. I was under the impression that the town's sewage capacity was pretty much at its limit. Is that,
If you're asking me, I understand there's draft approval for 51 units, and that they're asking for an additional 10 units. But I defer to the town and staff on that
Maybe
question.
staff can answer that question. Ingrid, do you want to talk about the sewage allocation on that thing?
The question is whether we have sewage allocation?
I thought the town was pretty much at capacity as far as sewage is concerned.
At this point, I know that there's enough sewage allocation. If council and the region approve this development, there should be sufficient sewage allocation for that. The concern is whether there's sufficient sewage allocation for phase 2 or any additional development, but my understanding at this point is, depending on how quickly you move, there is capacity available.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Bowser?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for your presentation. Just a couple of questions. On the north line, where houses subdivision went in there a number of years ago, those trees that are along the line there, how many of them are going out?
I can't answer that at this point. In the open house earlier this evening, that was a very common question that was raised. And what I indicated is that typically during the detailed design, that's when an arborist report would go in, and an arborist would look at the individual trees and see which one could be saved, which can't be saved, which can work with the grading and which can't work with the grading, and that's the kind of level of detail that we get into usually as a draft plan condition. I look to the Kennedy plan, which, as I said earlier, more or less reflects what we're showing here, and that was draft approved, so I was taking some of my lead from the previous decision at council.
It just seems with those trees that are along the line there, it serves as a great buffer, you know, from the houses that are, to the north. I like the idea that you've moved it from 17 units per hectare instead of being 21. I mean, that's
24, yeah.
or 20, yeah, and that's quite a difference.
Yeah.
So, okay, you know, I just wondered what was going across the north end. It's showing woodlot east and west, but it's showing to me that there's an area in there.
There is currently shown, at least on the landscape architect's plan, obviously a buffer of trees, but whether those are existing trees or proposed trees or a combination of both, I don't know at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you very much for your presentation. One of the questions that I had asked earlier, and as I continue to look at the diagram, is that what are you going to do about snow removal or snow storage? Because there doesn't appear to be any place in that subdivision.
That's a very common question on these types of developments, and usually a snow removal plan is required as a condition. I haven't turned my mind to it. I know in some of our other projects we simply remove the snow from the site through a private contractor.
Okay.
My questions revolve around that north block as well. Are you at the stage yet where you have elevation shots of what a particular block would look like if you were standing at a certain point behind it? You're not there yet, eh?
No. We needed to get through this process.
I'm sure some of the folks that are here are probably on those adjacent properties, and when they look out their backyard, you know, if they could get a visualization of what they would be looking at, like is there a buffer in front of it? Is there, you know, you mentioned the height of the buildings, like how would that stand in relation to what's existing? So maybe if you could provide that down the road to some of these people, I'm sure they would appreciate it.
One of the, I myself have not been to the, I've been to the property but not walked that line.
Right.
Whereas that's something our landscape architect would do in the arborist, so I'll bring that to his attention. One of the residents did tell me there was a bit of a grade difference between the backs of their lots, so and also indicated to me that the a very high fence had been proposed for the Kennedy plan, so we should be able to deal with that a little more sensitively than what would have happened with the Kennedy plan.
I don't know if there's a way to crunch those things down into a simple sketch that you could show and say,
not
this
until
is
we
the kind of thing that you would see. It doesn't have to be completely accurate, obviously, just something, you know,
well,
height elevations.
I can speak to that.
Because, you know, when you do have a buffering, sorry, go ahead.
We often will, to your point, a profile, so showing the house on the neighbor's property and the house on this property.
Because it was quite important in some of the other developments that we've dealt with, and the developer did provide those kinds of diagrams, which was quite helpful to the surrounding property owners, right? So something to consider sooner rather than later, if you can. In the top right corner, where it reaches over to the easement, what would you see there? What's in that space? The top.
Are you talking at the end of the road where the turnaround is?
Right on the north, I guess, northeast corner, just before you hit the walkway, if you will.
Just before you get to the walkway. So that's a turnaround.
It's a turnaround?
For trucks. Not that there'll be that many trucks.
Is there any visitor parking anticipated in that area?
There is visitor parking. It's hard.
Maybe you could point where those are in relation to... Okay. Oh, right there. Okay. Because that's always a concern as well when you have a higher density environment. When one person has a barbecue or a Christmas party, where is everybody going to park, you know? And the last thing we want is people coming out onto Reed Street. So, again, something to take back to your planners. Any other questions from committee? I will then open it up to the public. If anybody has any questions, feel free to come to the desk or go to the podium. And these folks are here to answer your questions. Don't be shy. Go ahead, and if you could just give your name, address, and postal code to the clerk, sir, before you start. You have to go to the mic so we can pick your voice up. Thank you.
My name's Wayne Kelty, K-E-I-L-T-Y. I live at 32 Village Green Lane. What am I, L9P 0C1. Okay. What I'm curious about is the process. I don't really know the process. It sounds like it's been approved at a regional level. Is that correct? and then it comes to you people, and then you approve the final?
Maybe I could get our consultant planner to answer your question.
In fact, both, all of three applications, so the rezoning, the plan of condominium, and the plan of subdivision are being processed together. But the region is processing the plans of subdivision and the plan of condominium, and the township is processing the zoning bylaw.
Okay, so what plan would I look at if I wanted to find out, if I may, how to find out what's worded around these woodlots to prove in effect to somebody like me that they're not gonna change? This is all fine and dandy if it's...
Can I just suggest something? The reason we need to speak into the mic is because we're actually videotaping it and they can't hear anything you say if we're not in the mic. Sorry,
That's
I
fine.
just want to make sure they can hear this.
So the bottom line is, I'd like to know in, where it is in writing that would protect those two woodlots, that they wouldn't change over time? Meaning, are they there for, forever?
Maybe
Or can you, I don't know, a year from now say, oh, let's put in playgrounds and basketball nets and whatever else?
That's a fair question. Liz?
So through the previous application, those lands were zoned in such a way as that they'll be protected. So you can look at the zoning bylaw and see that they are protected on a permanent basis. But through this process, what you want to do is make sure that we don't change that zoning. The township doesn't change that zoning. I don't think it's anticipated that they will, but keep an eye on them. Also, there may be some conditions which are established by the region as a so what they'll get is a draft plan approval first of all, and then they have to meet all sorts of conditions before they get the final approval for the plan of subdivision and plan of condominium. So there may be some conditions as part of that approval process. And I don't know what they would be off the top of my head, but they might, you'll recall that Mr. Smith showed the blue areas and the yellow areas, and so there may be some conditions that talk about how those will be dealt with. But the primary protection, that will make sure that these are maintained is the zoning bylaw, and that zoning is in place now. I don't anticipate that it will change, but as I said, keep an eye on things.
So simply put, I would just go on your website, find the zoning bylaws, and be able to follow it from there.
That's correct.
What about plans as they're put together? You said that we'd leave our names at the desk out there and we'd be told when, as you move through this process, so that's how it works. I.e., I'd go on the website, I'd be able to read the proposed site plans, at all the plans, and as you go through the process of approving them, making changes, we'd be able to follow them? Is that how it works?
So there will be some revisions to the plans, but when you'll see all that come together is in the final recommendation report that comes forward to council, and because and I think Mr. Smith referred to it, through this process we go back and forth, agencies bring in comments, we take into account the public comments, and so the applicant may come back in with some changes to what they've proposed. Those get circulated again. There may be some further changes. So it's a bit of an iterative process, a bit of a moving target, if you like. But at the end, I'll write a report to council, and it will refer to the final plans that have been, this is it, and then you can come in and have a look at that. And decide whether you want to show up here and say, I like it, or I'm not really happy with what is being the final plan.
I think that's why it's important that you sign up on those sheets outside so that you can be kept informed
we'll
as the
do that.
process evolves.
Yeah.
Some people will come tonight and then forget, and then they don't know what's going on past that point.
I don't want to take up everybody's time, but it sounded like we're going to have an arborist report out of this, right? Right, Michael?
I would defer to Liz because she's
Yeah,
done.
I just want you to commit to that arborist report.
I think I said
I
earlier,
can ask, but you've got to
typically an
commit.
arborist report is required, so that's what I had mentioned at the open house.
Now, an arborist report, they go through and look at all the trees and they figure out what's healthy, what's unhealthy, the size, the type and everything, and they map it all out, right? So what
That's
I'm
correct.
wondering is, and I'm thinking of the smaller area only because I live behind it, where there's large trees, maybe that are starting to go or have passed their, prime and so on, there might be an opportunity to take those down before they built the houses, for instance, based on the arborist report, right? Anyway, take that as a question from us, me.
So I just want to be clear through you, Mr. Chairman. You're talking about trees which are in those wooded
Correct.
areas.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to look at the report. I guess theoretically, they could say some of those trees should come down as part
Yeah.
of the ongoing maintenance.
Well,
but
that's what I
anyway.
noticed in that,
Yeah.
what did you guys call it, plan something or other? It said, maintenance actually, under that area. So there is a piece supposed to be for maintenance, right? Conservation, yeah. Because there was 3 points? Yeah. So the bottom line is, I would think that would be maintenance that you might want to do before you actually put up the houses, just because there may be trees that'll, could fall over and so on. Anyway, again, something to consider, something I'll follow.
So, what I might suggest for you, Mr. Chairman, to council is that this gentleman and whoever else is interested, once there is a final arborist tree planting plan or whatever, that a meeting be held with them to go over it, so that they could, because even if I bring my report back to this council, there's not going to be a chance to sit around and say, oh yeah, you're taking that tree out, oh I see, to really get into it. So it may be that it would, once we have the information and know basically where this is going, that there be a bit of a working informal session for people to
That's a good idea.
to go over it.
Thank you, Liz. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Any
I
other
think
questions?
you kind of covered it when you brought up a good point about the sewage, and I presume the water as well, that the town has the capacity to handle it, so I guess all we can do is follow along and assume you know what you're doing, and that you don't have to suddenly expand the sewage treatment plant or something, and then, we all pay more taxes.
Well, the region of Durham actually controls the sewage. What we do as a municipality is we allocate it. In other words, there's a pot, and if a developer comes and says, I have 60 units, then we can decide, we take from that pot and allocate it to them. We don't say how much the water
don't do
pollution
sewage.
plant is, or, did you want to answer that?
I should make a comment on that as well, because the previous plan had been approved for the 51 units. That allocation is already being set aside conditionally. So what's being required today is 10 additional units roughly from what the original plan
Yeah.
was. So 51 are technically sitting there as conditionally allocated. We don't actually give allocation away until we've entered into a subdivision agreement with a developer or a plan of condominium. And the purpose for that is that we don't want a developer sitting on sewage allocation and not proceeding with the development. So that's how it works, and you'll never get your final allocation until you basically have that signed subdivision or plan of condominium.
Okay. One last question, fencing. As we sit here, presumably we don't know what we'd like to see yet. Some may, some may not, but is there fencing included in something like this traditionally, all the way around the property, or just where they think they need it? Like those 5 units at the back on the north side, would they be expected to put their own fences? I know I've done that with new houses in the past, but would the developer
It would be part
put
of
in
the
fences?
site plan agreement, but maybe Mr. Smith wants to speak specifically to the type of fencing. Have you got to that stage yet where you know the design of the fence, or?
Sorry, sure.
Maybe he can
Again,
answer that question for you.
That level of detail is
Not yet?
usually a draft plan condition.
Okay.
And the draft plan condition comes out roughly, what, 2 months from now, months from now?
I don't know, whenever,
Something
whenever
we-
council makes
That
a
would
final
depend,
decision.
yeah, on
Price
all the other factors falling into place first.
Yeah.
As Liz has said, it has to go to the region for the condo and for the subdivision, and we would handle the zoning piece. So once that's done, then you move into stage 2, which is the draft plan approval stage, so.
I guess all I'm concerned about is to make sure we're included, so we know what's
Sure.
going
Well,
on.
please make sure you sign those sheets
We
before you
will
leave
do that,
tonight,
I'm
yeah.
sure, I will.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Smith, can you provide the clerk with a copy of your notes, could I ask, before you leave tonight? That would be great. I know she's scrambling to make some notes over there too, so Debbie, you wanna say anything?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to be clear on the notification, we notify when Liz's report is coming. We don't notify the residents at every single stage. So, and that was part of the chairman's blurb. You won't be notifying if there's changes to the plan and that kind of thing. Basically, we'll notify who has signed up when Liz's report and recommendations are coming forward to either approve or not approve, approve with conditions, whatever that may end up being. That's when we notify and when the bylaw will be coming forward, if it does come forward.
But you are transparent if we walked in the door and said, we'd like to see what's...
Yes. You can come into Development Services and request to see plans, you can request to see studies, anything like that. In big applications, usually once we start the process, that information will be posted on the website as well. So you can go on there and look, you can monitor our agendas and minutes to see what has, if anything is coming forward, letters that are coming with respect to, in support or in opposition to. But certainly any time coming through, as long as we have a bit of time, we can pull the applications, we can pull the files and let you look at the plans and reports and that type of thing.
It's all public documentation, so it's available. Liz, did you wanna comment on it?
Yeah, but further to what Debbie's saying, what I'm suggesting is that there would be some kind of informal meeting with the applicant once they progress to the point where they know what their tree situation is, and anyone who's registered would get invited to that. They would get the list from the clerk.
And my little blurb, as she said, there was points in there about contacting your ward councillor, calling the clerk's department, those sorts of things. So if there's something that really is bugging you, pick up the phone and call either of them. That's what they're there for, is to answer your question, so, okay. Does that answer your question? I hope. Okay. Anyone else have any? Don't be shy. Just have your name, address, and postal code, sir, for the clerk.
Good evening. Hi. If I could just get that map back up. My name's Claudio Cachera. I'm a resident of 46 Village Green. Wonderful town of Uxbridge. Okay. So like many of us, I've got some concerns. My house happens to be this one right over here, in the corner. And based on this, am I to assume that we will have 0 trees because of that turnaround road? Which, my next question after that is that road going to be used for garbage trucks? And if so, there's a chance that there's going to be a pile up of excess garbage falling from the truck, the smell, the animals, and we're right next to a path. Do we need that path? Because I'm pretty sure we'd like to close ourselves completely from this development by removing the path. And the developer mentioned he'd even offer to build a parkette for us to close it off completely, so we don't have that two-way traffic. And also, there's a concern that we're going to have visitors not having enough spots with 15 spots, to your point. Christmas party, I know us neighbors love to party as well. And seriously, you got to come by sometime, it's pretty cool. The lights are on, yeah, that's right. So, the concern is we're going to have individuals parking on Village Green, that we respect our road, and to this point we've had no parking issues. And we all know what's going to happen with that walkway. First thing that you fine folks are going to do, put up no parking signs to control that road, which takes away from us. We respect the parking. We don't park during the months we're not supposed to. But once this goes in, that's out the door. And we pay enough property taxes. I moved from Newmarket to Uxbridge because of how beautiful it is. And the minute I saw that backyard, I bought that house in 12 minutes. It didn't even go to market, only because of that backyard. And I also met the neighbors too while I was there. But now, taking that into consideration, my backyard is going to have no greenery based on this. Is there any option of maybe removing that back row of homes? I know it's less profit for the developer. I totally get that. If you were to remove all that, we're completely far away. We've got beautiful trees. Some are dying mysteriously. Some seem to be leaning more so in the past year or two. I'm on conspiracies. I'm a big fan of that stuff. But anyhow, there's a lot of concerns here. And being the corner unit and a couple other neighbors, we are getting hosed. And it's so unfortunate how beautiful the backyard is. But it's not. It's going to be gone. And in all fairness, I do like this plan much better than the, what's the gentleman's name? Kennedy, just moved in 2 years ago, so. The Kennedy plan, which had the 3-tier type of townhomes, which absolutely, we'd be watching, Bill come out with his T-shirt on, in the middle of the night, and this is obviously a bit more private, but so much is being blown away for nothing. If we can revamp this somehow to save all that, get rid of that walkway, which is going to cause problems, close it off, a little parkette. A lot of kids in the neighborhood would love that parkette. So, just a few thoughts.
Maybe if I could get the CAO to speak to the access.
Yeah, unfortunately, the walkway is it's an essential part of the development, and may not be happy to hear that, but because it is a plan of condominium, it is required as an emergency exit. You have to have an entrance and an exit into the development, undersized roads, and that walkway is going to be essential. It's not going to be open, per se, for cars to drive on. It will have a lock gate at the end, and the idea being that a full-size fire truck would be able to come into that development if there was a fire and they couldn't gain access off of Reach Street. It's not my rules, so don't ask me any questions about it. It's a fire rule.
Sorry, through you, I think.
Well, maybe, sorry, I'm thinking of the old plan. So maybe in the new plan, we'll have to look at that, but in the old plan, that's what that walkway was for. So that's something that can be looked at. It'll have to be...
We're going to need to pick up your questions, or maybe you want to go up next and ask a similar thing. It's just we need it for the record, so... But our planner will take everything she gets tonight and take it away and digest it all, so...
Hi, my name is David Asagi, 92 Nalkid, which is right at the end of Village Green Lane, one of the neighbors that likes to party with Claudio. Dave Visagie. Yeah, last name Visagie. And then the question being, since there are two now road access off of Reach with this plan, does that offer the flexibility to look again at whether that sidewalk is necessary or that access? I understand that the lot is reserved for the services connections, right, and that has to be there, but there are multiple ways now to perhaps finish that particular lot above ground. And by removing the sidewalk, it does allay one of our concerns, which is the parking that we anticipate will be done on Village Green Lane as it curls around to Nalkid. Being at the corner, we have a lot of children in that little area. Several of them are children with disabilities, ranging from autism to visual impairment. And for that being the case, there is a bit of a safety concern if those parking conditions aren't, at least if people aren't kept from parking on those roads irresponsibly. The neighbors all know each other, so as it stands right now, people who do use that for occasions are very respectful. They don't park in certain parts of it. They don't park on the corner or the curves, things like that that could be an issue. And we would hate to see it turn into a situation where we would have to start applying for no parking zones and no parking signs so that nobody could park there. If we are able to remove the sidewalk, that then eliminates that as a parking option for people in the new development. So that was my question, and I just wanted to, since we were talking about that exit needed, now with the new plan with the entrance or the two entrance exits off of Reach Street, maybe that is no longer a necessity. So I just wanted to raise that.
We'd have to look at that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Again, that's why we have the experts here, so. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hi, Gary O'Brien, 44 Village Green, L9P0A2. I just wanted to echo kind of what Mr. Barton and Mr. Ballinger was saying earlier on, and to the neighbors to the north, who are the majority of the neighbors, really, in this plan. We kind of have less say. We have very little say in what's happening here, and I kind of think it's just a lack of responsibility in regards to what's already existing there. For those that aren't familiar with the property, the subject lands here, it rivals Durham Forest. Like, these things are twice as high as our houses, our two-story big homes there, and it's a beautiful spot. And you've like, according to this, literally, you've paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Really, you really have, and especially in this area here, it looks as if there's no buffer zone, and what's there right now could be the ideal buffer zone for what Uxbridge could be really proud of, as to inserting a new subdivision in amongst the backyards of an existing subdivision. And it's a real shame that we're not taking advantage of what's already there, you know, let alone all the environmental factors and all the flora and fauna, all kind of things that benefit from all that. We were here in 2015 speaking about this, and all the reports that we've read, I know from back then too, I read a lot of the information about all that stuff from back then as well. So I kind of know, I can remember back to what we spoke about then. And it just feels like there's a lost opportunity here to make it what it could be, you know. Even if we were, and I know, you know, developers, there's a lot of backing there, there's a lot of, you know, very deep support there for what the developers bring, but what if we were to, like, minus this one, and that one, and bring all this down one unit, like, and connect the two forests, the two green sections that was mentioned back in 2015 too, with all the wildlife back there. It actually it sort of isolates both forests, and there's a lot of wildlife back there. I'm sure all the surveys have been done for that. There's foxes, rabbits, raccoons, squirrels, all those kinds of things, and now they're going to be severed from either. So I just find it's a missed opportunity here for what it could be, with the potential that's already existing there. You got 100-foot, 80 to 100-year-old trees, old growth, significant old growth forest, significant growth. These are all terms that have been deemed by the LSRCA. It's got environmental constraint, which I don't know whatever happened to that. Apparently, it's just vanished now. I guess that what it's been deemed. All that stretch along the north end was all environmental constraint at one point, and it just that term's gone now, I guess, or it no longer matters, which is a big shame. So, yeah, to missed opportunity to make it right, I would say.
Good.
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Don't be worried, our planner's writing furious notes here, so but again, I would recommend you sign up before you leave tonight, and by all means, send your thoughts in again by email or by letter, and we'll accumulate everything and get it to her again, so. Because you might wake up tonight at 2 a.m. and say, gee, why didn't I say that? Right? So.
Evening, Council. My name's Brandon Ott, O-T-T, at 283 Reach Street, L9P1R4. By my count, 7 lots east of this development on Reach Street. I have 2 concerns and one request for your consideration, I guess as well for the consideration of Venetian Group. Though I will admit I'm no expert in municipal planning, so it's entirely possible what I would like to speak about is more of a regional matter, and if you could let me know at the end if that's something I should direct their way, then I will do so. First and foremost, and perhaps a larger one, the concern I have is increased traffic and pedestrian traffic on Reach Street. So where I live, right on the bend of Reach Street, right near the old Scrambles, I guess it is a very dangerous stretch of road. It's a 50, supposedly, kilometer-an-hour area. Nobody drives this. Rural in nature, and people treat it either wittingly or unwittingly as though it's an 80 zone. And so there's a lot of speed there, and my fear is that with 61 new families on this road through 2 choke points, the possibility for an incident, whether that be vehicle on vehicle or, heaven help us, vehicle on pedestrian, is only increasing. So that's certainly a concern that I have, especially with a young family that likes to walk down this street. That's a huge concern. Not a new one, but an exacerbated one. The second concern that I have is different but related in nature. Homeowners along Reach Street have chosen a primarily rural setting to live in, with all of the pros and cons that come with that. So on the one side, we have a very nice private, quiet setting, largely surrounded by nature, which is lovely. On the other hand, most of us are on sewer and septic. Many of us do not have natural gas, and none of us have a sidewalk in front of our house, which, as I just mentioned, leads to excessive speed and dangerous road conditions for our residents. And so I look at this development, and I don't like to stand in the way of growth, but it's hard to slice it any other way than it negatively and materially alters the surrounding for rural residents down Reach Street, which may just be victims of progress, but on the other hand, we will continue to be excluded from many of the benefits of what I would call urban living. We will all continue to be on septic and sewer. We will all there is natural gas available now, though most of us are not connected to it, which I'll come back to. And most importantly, in my mind, we'll continue to live on what appears to be a rural road and continue to experience dangerous traffic conditions, particularly for pedestrians, of which there are many on this stretch of road. So the request I have for consideration, and perhaps it's for a Venetian Group, perhaps it's for this council, or it may be for the region, would be the extension of sidewalks along Reach Street. I note that the plan before us now includes a sidewalk. I wasn't able to get a clear answer from Venetian Group and their consultants in the meeting prior to this, whether or where east and west that is intended to extend, because as it exists today, certainly looking west, the existing sidewalk does not make it all the way to this development, so I don't know what the intent would be there to bridge that gap. And then on the other side, for the remainder of us there, I suppose in the spirit of the public interest, I would hope that it would be a rather small price to pay. In fact, in conversation with Venetian Group, not putting words in their mouth, the indication I received was that this sidewalk was a proactive gesture on their part to attempt to meet the full balance of the public interest. And for my part, I would just hope that the town or the region avails itself of an opportunity to work with a willing partner to rationally expand infrastructure. And you know, it may sound as though I'm just kind of nervous about our lots being left behind or forgotten as the town's development marches eastward, but it's not for no reason. In the summer of 2015, we watched the local gas utility run a gas line on the other side of the street all the way down to the Foxbridge new golf clubhouse, without so much as a phone call or a letter to any of the 20 or 30 oil-using customers on the other side of the street that very much could have used relief from the high cost of heating oil or the high cost of electricity. So if we're not careful about this, I'm just a little worried that we're going to get forgotten again, and I'll wake up one day looking across the street at subdivisions on the rest of Foxbridge and still have no sidewalk and still have no access to municipal services. So Certainly the sidewalk would be a much higher priority, and I can't pretend to speak for all my neighbors, but I know many of them would support that. Sewer and septic, I acknowledge that's maybe another kettle of fish and perhaps a bit more to bite off. But that would, for me and many of the residents down Reed Street, go a long way to kind of balancing out some of the negative impacts that we expect this to bring about, namely through the extension of those sidewalks, because in Uxbridge we've seen the effects of that to the positive before, in my opinion anyways, down Toronto Street, Highway 47. I think we all noticed a very big change in traffic patterns when those were put in, and I would love to see a similar change in what is currently a 50-kilometer zone that's not really treated that way. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Anyone else? Sure. Come on up to the mic, please, and give us your name, address, postal code.
Hi, my name is Michelle Maynard. I live at 1 Village Green Lane in Uxbridge. My question is to the council. Have you received notification of a plan of subdivision or purchase on Highway 47 as well as Foxbridge North? Because it seems to me that when we purchased our home on Village Green, we were looking at all of these wonderful new houses, and being a big family, we have 5 kids, we really needed a space. And we were looking at those houses that were backing onto the golf course, and I said to myself, that's a 66-foot, that's a road allowance. What's going on? So my instinct is telling me Highway 47, Brock Street, is there a formal plan of subdivision or indication that that property has been purchased for development? If you look at Durham Road 8, Reach Street, you've got the plan of subdivision on Reach, and then you've got those beautiful, beautiful condos or townhouses abutting Village Green. And then you've got your golf course, which could easily be sold, although you do have some pristine lots that could be favorable for people who want to pay the extra for protected land. And then you've got Highway 47. Have you received notification?
Do you have that specific property? Could you mention what that is?
Are you talking about Foxbridge Golf Course?
Foxbridge Golf Course and Highway 47. The parcel on the
Is it owned by
south side.
Foxbridge presently, or in your...
No.
No? Okay.
You can get back to me on that.
We'll get back to you
I
on that.
think that's really interesting.
We haven't got an application for Foxbridge for sure.
Okay.
But
That's it.
there may be there's some additional properties in there, right?
The sidewalk thing is a big deal for Reach Street. The speed is a huge, huge deal, safety-wise. The parking for Village Green, at the corner, definitely people are going to be pulling in and parking their vehicles, going to their parties, walking along the corridor. That's fine and well and good. However, for the people that live down there, I think it is definitely a big problem. The parking issue for the single car or the smaller lot is definitely an issue, because when people buy a property, they would like to be able to park their vehicles without playing car tag. And then they might just park on their street because they really don't have a place to park. So that could be a problem too. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, as mentioned earlier, the township has initiated a 2-car minimum for the driveway, so we don't want people parking on the street or in the visitor parking. So that will be part of Liz's report, I'm sure. Okay. Your name, address, and postal code, please.
Gail Sanderson, 7909 Durham Road 30, LOG1MO. One of my first questions is, I don't remember because I've been to every public meeting concerning this, but is there a traffic light going in?
No.
Because when the one resident was concerned, living like 7 lots down, about walking, I was just wondering, when this development does go in, will there be like a traffic light or pedestrian?
Well, I certainly can't speak for regional traffic, but I would be very scarce to see a traffic light
Okay.
there.
I just couldn't remember from that.
And I'm not sure if, Mr. Smith, have you talked to the region about having the two entrances onto Reed Street? Or is that sort of...
Yes.
in the works?
Originally, they balked at it, and we pushed it further, and they come back and said they accept it now.
They accepted it, okay. Does that answer your question, Gail?
I
No?
didn't quite get what he...
I don't know, I would severely doubt there would actually be a traffic light there.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because it's usually for a through street, not for a mini subdivision or something like that. Okay?
Okay. I still don't understand when Councillor Beach asked the planner about the winter time. I don't understand why he doesn't have an answer about the winter season, about snow, about, you know, trucking it out to whatever, if this is private streets and so forth, then I'm sure this isn't the only plan he's ever done before in Ontario. So I would think that would be whoever owns the property, I mean, they'd be concerned about that too.
Well, there would be a property manager, I'm sure, for the common elements. Maybe Mr. Smith can speak to that a little bit better than I would.
Sorry for the misunderstanding. I wasn't evading the question. In fact, I said in my experience, typically in a subdivision like this, you would cart it off-site. So
Is that for sure?
No, but at this point, we haven't reached the draft plan of subdivision stage. That's kind of a detail that we get into later, but looking at the plan, it would seem to me probably it would be carted off-site.
Mary?
And in 2015, when we had the public meeting concerning the Kennedy design and stuff, that was a very, one of the very important things about the trees in those, like, back area where the one gentleman lives at 46, with him and his neighbors and parties. I don't understand why I just jokingly say that, sir. Why that wouldn't be a subject that the staff were brought up with this development concerning that aspect, because there were several people that were upset about when they moved into Village Green. So I was kind of surprised tonight to see that there's going to be like 5 houses going up there.
Well, we talked briefly about buffering as to, you know, what would those people see or what would they experience from their own yards. And I don't know if you're at that stage yet, but I think that's probably very important to those people that would live there, so. And I think that goes to your point.
Kennedy plan for just one moment to respond.
Sure.
Thank you. So this is the Kennedy, the Kennedy plan. You recall this plan? So there are more units along here. You can see a road coming right up into there. So I think, in fact, what we're proposing has less of an impact than what was draft plan approved before.
Oh, I agree, but I'm just surprised.
Oh, I thought you were saying that this was a better plan than what
Oh,
we
no,
have.
no, no, no,
Okay.
I wasn't saying that.
You really have to
speak
use
into
the
the
mics
mic.
because we can't hear what you're saying.
I wasn't saying that one was better than the other. I was just commenting about this plan. I'm surprised that there is units close enough to the Village Green. Yeah, Village Green, because of all those people that were commenting at the last meeting, and who are, since I know one family moved from that area, from that meeting, because now the trees were going to be taken down and stuff and so forth. So I was just kind of surprised that there would be any, which So that's what I was commenting on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna take a few more. I know you probably all get places you'd rather be than sitting in here, so. But please put your comments to paper because we want to hear everything you have to say.
Okay, I'll be quick. Angie Hardy, 42 Village Green Lane. So we are, L9P0A2. We live the third block over, so we are directly impacted, as Gary mentioned, as well as everybody else, I suppose. So a lot of our concerns were mentioned tonight. I just had a question. Were the concerns that we all voiced, whether it be in letters or at the public meetings, were any of those concerns and letters, etc., read over by the developer or
anything that's
planner?
received by us is forwarded to the applicant and to our planner. So
Okay.
yes, they were reviewed.
Okay. It just appears that we're reiterating the same concerns that we had a couple of years ago. So I just wanted to make sure that, you know, those things were read and taken into consideration because, as that lady mentioned, huge concerns about the back of our house.
Absolutely.
You know, and really want to make sure that it would be appreciated if that was taken into consideration.
I'm sure they were listening. So
Okay.
again, I don't make those reports. That falls to our planner, but she
Okay.
covers everything that she receives. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to give 21 days, which is 3 weeks from this evening. I'll get to you in a second, Roger. And if you have any comments, again, you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to write it down, please get it to us. There's sign-up sheets out in the foyer, so don't forget to sign those before you leave tonight. So it'll be 21 days. Anyone wishing to receive further notice should give their full name and address out on the sheets. And I'm going to ask if there's any other business this evening. There being none, I will adjourn. And just after we're adjourned, yeah, sure. Any comments? Can I get? Sorry? No, just this particular. No, I'm not adjourning the meeting. No, that's the mayor's job. No, it's just this portion of the planning meeting. So, but please don't forget to sign up outside, and please send us your correspondence because we read them all. Thanks for coming, folks. So I will adjourn planning and pass it back to Mayor for the balance of the meeting. Thank you for coming.
Alrighty, could we have approval of minutes, please? Sorry, Roger, did you
Can
have
I
a
answer your question now? You'll get me at the end? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes by Councillor Beach, seconded please. Councillor Bryan, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. We're going to correspondence.
Correspondence item 82, Region of Durham, 2017 Annual Building Activity Review.
Would you like to deal with this, please? Councillor Ballinger?
Well, I'd like to give you a motion here to receive from the Region of Durham correspondence from 82 to 94. It's all information for us. We went through it at the Region. If anybody's got any particular question, I should be able to answer it, but if everybody read it, it's for information.
I actually have one question to our clerk on 93, if you don't mind, Councillor Ballinger. I agree with your motion. Can I have somebody second that, actually, Councillor Bryan? My question is on 93, just a very quick question. So this is a change in the sign policy made at the Region to go to 1.2 meter signs. Will that apply to this election for us in Uxbridge? Because it does say that the regional policy supersedes ours.
So that would have to do with the regional roads.
No, this actually election sign is part of it, which
Yes.
says it goes to a 1.2 meter.
On
Yes,
regional
on the regional
roads.
roads, right.
Yep. So we would.
So that applies to us, this election?
Correct.
Right, okay, that was my question. So we have a mover and a second. Are there any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. 95, Debbie.
Correspondence item 95, Conrad Richter rezoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2018-07.
Council, what would you like to do with this one? Motion, Councillor Hyatt?
Motion to receive and forward to planner and applicant.
Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Beach, all's in favor? Carried, thank you. 96.
Excuse me.
Correspondence item 96, Louis Gregor, Uxbridge Scottish Festival, request to burn a Viking ship.
Does anybody know how big that ship is they're talking about? It's getting a little worrisome in there. And do we have a permit? Anyway, Councillor Ballinger.
I'm gonna say, yes, but, let's have this go to the fire department,
Okay.
the fire chief,
Good.
and make sure they get the proper permit to burn.
Great, so moved by Councillor Ballinger to refer to the fire department, seconded by Councillor Barton. All's in favor? Carried, thank you.
Correspondence item 97, Grant Baines request to implement 40-kilometer speed limit in all residential areas and redesign of Center Road to slow traffic.
I think we're waiting for a report to come back from Works on this, actually, aren't we? But anyway, Councillor Barton, go ahead.
Yeah, just, I was thinking about Center Road, and I drive on it all the time. Jack lives on it. One of the issues with our extremely well-built, wide roads is that people drive as fast as they feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
I would encourage council to drive down Carlton Road in Unionville, if they're down that way. It's a road that's very similar to that. They dropped it to a 40 zone like 10 or 15 years ago, and people still drove as fast as they felt comfortable. So changing the speed limit, certainly will add revenue to Durham Region for tickets, but doesn't necessarily solve the problem. What they did on Carlton is they brought in the road with parking / bike lanes. They moved people from one side of the road to the other. They put in a wide median just out of paint. So with mostly paint, you can kind of change behavior. And I think we should look at that for roads like this.
I think we have I'm quite sure we asked Ben for a report on why we can't reduce all of our and I don't think we've got it back yet, have we? No, okay, so maybe we'll ask him to address that as well.
Yeah. But again, it's something we should think about.
I agree 100%.
I would talk to Ingrid about the same thing.
Agree 100%. Councillor Beach.
As Councillor Barton was just saying about Carlton, I go down there every 2 weeks to see clients. So yeah, it does really help the way it's laid out, because you kind of have to drive like a bit of a snake going down the road. So it does slow things down, but yet the road is not narrow, so it could solve some problems.
Any other questions? Okay. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Have a mover, please. Councillor Barton, seconded. Councillor Bryan? No questions? All's in favor? Oh, what were we doing? I assumed you're just receiving it. I don't know.
So how about we receive and send to Public Works to
Great.
add to that?
Great. Refer to staff? Perfect. Great. All's in favor?
I thought that was your motion.
Carried.
Correspondence 98, Christine Chown, request for use of space at the Senior Center by Art Group.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I support this. I think whenever we can get more people into that facility, it's a win. It's not used during the day. It would be a perfect location for art, as long as it works with the youth center.
Yeah.
We just have to have our users work it out. So, how do we want to move that in?
What's that? Go ahead. Ingrid, go ahead.
Already sent it to Amanda to ask her to contact Christine Chown and see what they can work out. And if they can't work it out for that location, to look at another location.
Fantastic. So,
So we referred this to staff as well?
Yeah.
Councillor Barton, second by Councillor Beach. All's in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Correspondence item 99, Alana Dubé, concerns regarding dogs defecating on public and private property.
This is a big issue. You know, we built a dog park so people could take their dogs that are off leash. The problem is there are so many issues around town with people that just aren't picking up after their dogs, or they're leaving the bags there. We really have to draw attention to our residents that you're responsible for your dogs, and I think there's a lot of things in this letter, but I think the whole point of this letter is pick up after your dogs. Will you have a little respect for your neighbors? That's anyway. What would you like to do with this? Ingrid, you want to comment?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. I think through the goodness of a lot of people's hearts, they're allowing our public trails on private property. The township doesn't have all of the links that we need. We cross a number of private properties in order to run the trail system that we have. And it is not very nice when people leave the trails in the condition that they leave them in. You need to pick up after your dog, or we may end up losing our privileges to go onto these private properties. And if we lose sections like the section that goes from Elgin Park Drive to the Countryside Preserve, it would be a shame. But if people don't pick up after their dogs, eventually what happens is people say, okay, fine, you know what? You don't want to pick up after your dog? We'll take away your privileges to use that trail.
That's really what's
And that would
happening.
be the shame.
That's what's happening. We have, the Elgin Park entrance there and the preserve. Not everybody loves dogs, and not everybody wants to be tripping over this stuff. I mean, if you pick up after your dogs, we really have to make that. We don't want to be in a position where we're telling people not to go on our trails or not to walk your dogs in the streets. We don't want to make any more rules. Just people just have a little respect for your neighbors, and I hope maybe some of our editorials over there would address that, because it would be wonderful if people just understood you're responsible for your dogs and you're making a mess for other people, and it's not fair. Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, but I think it gravitates into a bigger issue, and we've talked about this before. People just lack of respect, leaving garbage anywhere, or full garbage bags next to cans that are, half empty. I mean, it's just a lack of respect, and I think this is part and parcel of it.
Let's hope it's a wake up. We'll see how stern the articles may be in the paper this week. So can we have a motion to receive this, please? Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Barton. All's in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Correspondence item 100, Jim Teepee, ACOM, Re-Eberton Estates, 220 Main Street, 40M 2547, assumption recommendation.
Questions, Council? Councillor Hyatt.
Just curious as to why the full report is on our agenda. Like Mr. Teepee's, we don't usually get a full report on this. Is there a special reason that we're getting all this information?
I have no idea.
Or did I miss something?
Debbie, who can answer that? Anybody?
It usually just comes forward, a recommendation, saying that the engineer concurs with the applicant or whatever. Is there a reason, Ingrid, you know?
I asked that it be put on. I'm not really sure why we've got it all, but generally we would have a bylaw that would allow us to accept the development. But the only thing is that we're going to withhold $5,000 in the letter of credit in order, once we assume it, just to ensure that some of the other requirements are completed.
Somebody like to make a motion with this one? Councillor Hyatt? Are we just making a motion to move the recommendation?
The recommendation, yeah.
A seconder, please. Councillor Bryan. All's in favor? Carried. Are we done, Debbie, with correspondence, or is there any left?
Correspondence item 101, Stuart Blower, Vet Committee, Hummingbird Sculpture relocation.
Council, what would you like to do with this? Councillor Hyatt?
Maybe if I can give council some background on this. Is everybody familiar with what we're talking about? Yep. It's the green structure out in the town hall here, which has been kind of neglected. And it's, nothing to do with the township. All I'm saying is it's been there for quite a while. There's trees now growing over it. And when Fly Freeman presented her new project just out front there, we did, as the committee of ABEC, which is Video Enhancement Committee, thank you. We decided that we needed to do something with that. So the intent here is to remove it from where it is, take it to a shop, get it repainted, get it fixed up. It also actually moves the top part, so it's going to be lubricated and then remounted up near the skate park at Fields of Uxbridge. So most of the costs will be covered by the ABEC budget. All they're asking for is if transportation of the item up there, and I think they've already had discussions with Bob Ferguson on this, and he's pretty good with it.
So Bob's okay to move
He's
it?
okay with it. Yeah, it's just getting the T's crossed and the I's dotted, but he's aware of it. He's aware of the location that they're considering here. There's a schematic on your on your report. It doesn't come out too clear, but it's just sort of a. I mean, is everybody happy with the location? I guess is our question.
So you're moving that recommendation, Councillor Hyatt?
I'll move the recommendation unless
Councillor
there's
Beach?
any questions that
Are there any
council has.
questions?
So, no.
All's in favor? Carried.
And it's a good legacy project too for ABEC because they wanted to get some of these items done before the end of this term of council. So.
Okay, reports to council. Is that where we're at, Debbie? Oh, was there a resolution there? Sorry. We do have a resolution. Just put your mic on, Gary, please.
Want him to read it, Mayor, or do you want to do it?
I'll read it. Do you want me to read it? Okay. Resolution number 2018-10, June 25th, 2018. Who's the mover and seconder on this? Moved by Councillor Ronan and seconded by Councillor Hyatt. Whereas the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Uxbridge deems it desirable to declare surplus and convey real property, 1-foot reserve, legally described as Part 4, Plan 40R23-286, PIN 26876-0172, and Part 16, Plan 40R-23-286, PIN 26876-0180, Ravenshoe Road, if that means anything to anybody, Township of Uxbridge, Regional Municipality of Durham. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Uxbridge hereby declare the following, that the property, 1-foot reserve, legally described as Part 4, Plan 40R-23-286, PIN 26876-0172, and Part 16, Plan 40R-23-286, PIN 26876-0180, Ravenshoe Road, Township of Uxbridge, Regional Municipality of Durham, is surplus to the needs of the municipality, and that public notice be placed in the local newspaper once a week for 2 consecutive weeks, advertising that the lands are being declared surplus and the township's intention to convey said lands. Township File L. Debbie, do you want to tell us what that is?
Through your worship, so what this is a small 1-foot reserve that the township received as part of the Capri land division application. So basically what this does is prevent someone from legally going over a parcel of property that we own in order to gain access to their property. So usually it's a stipulation as part of land division that would prevent somebody from getting legal access to the property until such time as all the conditions are met in the land division application. So right now, those have been met. This is a piece of property off of the Ravenshoe Road. So now it is time for us to lift that 1-foot reserve. We have to dedicate it to the region, and then they will dedicate it as public road. So because it's not fronting on one of our township roads, different times you'll see this come forward, and because it's a township road, then we will then dedicate it as public roadway. But because in this particular case it's fronting on a regional road, we have to go through the process, declare it surplus, transfer it to the region, and then they dedicate it.
Red tape.
Okay.
No. Okay, so we're done. Reports to council. Is that right? Didn't we vote? All's in favor? Carried. Reports to council. This is report DS 3418, Liz Howson. This is regarding 27 Anderson. Comments?
No, I'll move that recommendation. That's for that yard.
Great, yes.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Ballinger, second by Councillor Beach. Are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. Report DS 3618, Liz Howson. This is Mr. Harry Chung. This is zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision, application part 1 to 3, concession 4, Hamlet of Sanford, Township of Uxbridge. I'm going to have some questions on this. Anybody else got a question? Councillor Beach?
Okay, I still have a great concern about the location of the barn to the east, that it could have animals in the future, and then subdivision, the people that are living there could have concerns. That's about it.
So the minimum setback, the minimum distance, the issue is, and I know Jim's here and he may want to come up and speak, who owns the barn next to it. It refers to a barn that is unoccupied or a barn that is occupied. The question is, right now, he currently doesn't have any livestock in the barn, but does this mean that for him, once this subdivision goes in, because we know it's different for a residential as opposed to a farm going in. So does that mean that in the future that he will not be permitted to have animals in the barn? Hit the wrong mic, Liz. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, if he needs to get a building permit,
No, he just wants to use his barn for livestock.
but if he needs to get a building permit, then he'll be subject to MDS. If he does not need a building permit for the barn, then the MDS will not apply.
So a future, he can sell this property, and a future farmer can put whatever animals he wants in that barn, and
As
it's-
long as he doesn't need a building permit to
Right,
make,
if he expands.
modifications to it.
So is the building permit...
The other problem is, at this point, we don't know what animals could go in there.
Absolutely.
And depending on what the animal is, in fact, the existing houses may create a problem, but we don't know.
The issue is that we don't want to impact the current farm property by this development. So we don't want to tie his hands in the future.
And you aren't if he doesn't need a building permit, but you won't know that. The other problem that you have to balance against that is that these lands have been designated as hamlet since the 1980s. They've been there all that time, and they're finally, after much review, they're now at the point where we're ready to recommend draft plan approval. But
We get that, but the issue is we
Yeah.
always had that arc around the barn, and that's the issue.
But
Because there will be houses in that arc now.
Yeah, but we don't know how big that arc is. That's the problem. We won't know what that is until they actually come and put animals in there.
But the
And
arc's indicated on the drawing.
the other thing is that they requested, and the applicant has provided for the potential for a road to extend easterly onto that farm property.
Right.
If in the future there should be the potential to put a hamlet expansion
So
there.
my question then would be, with regards to a building permit, is it only going to refer to the size of the footprint, or if he wanted to build something inside the building and needed a permit, would that apply?
So, I don't know the answer to that, because I'm not
I know.
familiar enough with the building permit. You know, for instance, if he wanted to, put some new stalls in there, do I know whether he would need a building permit? I don't know. I mean, yes, certainly if he wants to expand the building, he's going to need a building permit.
If he changed the footprint, for sure,
Yeah,
understood.
for sure he will, but in terms of what would a building permit cover interior to the building, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
You need to talk to Brian.
Council, it's kind of different. I know Jim is here in the room, and this has been going on for a long, long time. Would anybody mind if I allowed Jim to ask a question? Unless we've answered the question, Jim. Sorry, would you make a motion? Councillor Barton, seconded by Councillor Bryan. All's in favor? Carried. Sorry, I know it's totally out.
Jim Crossland, 420 Sanford Road, L0C1EO. Mayor, when I was talking to you at the farm, and you explained that there were two MDS, the one, I'm not against the development. That's all. I'm all for it. I think it's dragged on too long. But I want it done properly. You explained that if it being into agriculture, there's one DM there.
Right.
And by the size of houses within 1,600 feet. The second one is that was a plan of hamlet, residential, was there when we bought the farm. We knew that. The second MDS is where you draw that arc from the barn. And as I showed you, there's one lot on Smith Drive that still doesn't have a house on it because there were 4 horses in the barn when that was developed. So they had to freeze that one lot. So that barn is about the third the size of ours. So I'm thinking, okay, and even in the developer's report that he had done, it mentioned there that it's not just occupied barns, but vacant barns.
Right.
So by the size of our barn, I don't think it has to have animals in there in order to say, okay, you can't build in these lots. But I don't want to stand in Harry's way. But I don't want it to affect. I knew all along, to change the footprint, you need building permits, and it would be at the far east end of the farm.
Right.
But you don't need permits to go in and rip stalls out and make it loose housing or do anything like that with the barn.
You might if you wanted to go higher. Just saying. just being the devil's
Well-
advocate, I'm just being the devil's advocate. And sorry, Randy, we had this, I thought this was already all cool with Jim, and then today, when Jim and I spoke today, he's not completely satisfied with the answers,
So, and in fact, Mr. Crosland submitted a written, submission, which I quoted in the report, which in fact reflects basically what he's saying here. So I was having to grapple with the fact that he wanted to make sure that he could continue to use that barn for animals. And my understanding, as I said, is that if he doesn't need a building permit, then he should be able to put animals in there. He is perfectly correct that the MDS applies whether the barn is used for animals or whether it is not used for animals. It still applies. He's also correct that there are two types of MDS. The difference between what he's referring to, the lot that he's referring to further to the south in the same hamlet, and now is that, I'm not sure how to put this diplomatically, but the MDS through the years has changed, and my understanding now is that this, because this is in the hamlet, the one MDS doesn't apply to it. However, if these houses are built, the other MDS will apply to his barn if, as I said, if he needs a building permit.
I've just pulled up the MDS. So MDS 1 provides the minimum distance separation between proposed new development and any existing livestock barns, manure storage, and/or anaerobic digesters. Minimum distance separation 2 provides the minimum distance separation between proposed new, expanding, or remodeled livestock barns, manure storage, and/or anaerobic digesters, and existing or approved development, if that makes any sense.
So the second one would apply should Mr. Crosland do something with that barn to bring animals in. But the trigger, as I understand it, is if he needs a building permit. So it says remodeling, but there has to be something that tells the township that he's remodeling, and that would be a necessity for an application for a building permit.
So the answer is, if you don't need a building permit, you will always be able to have animals in that barn.
Yeah. That's my understanding.
Does that?
Yeah. And in terms of the first one, it's my understanding that because this is in a designated hamlet, that first one doesn't apply. So it's new development, but it's not new development in a hamlet or presumably in the Uxbridge urban area.
So it's fair to say he can always have animals in that barn, there's no MDS?
That's
until there's a
my
building
understanding, unless...
Does that answer your question, Jim? Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I guess the lot to the south end can be built on.
Maybe, well, that's another day, that's not, let's not even go there. Councillor Barton, okay.
Okay, and I'm struggling with this still, even with that stipulation. You know, if something happened to that barn and he has to rebuild, or he has to need the building permit because of wind damage or whatever, it may limit his usage. He may not be able to rebuild even what's there, if he has to get a building permit. Is that correct, Liz?
Who knows?
So
do you know the answer, Randy? Sorry, this is Randy, the planner here. And
okay.
Sorry, but it's an important issue, though. I just want to get a definitive answer.
No, it's something that I grappled with throughout this application.
Can we have a motion, please, to hear Randy? Randy's the planner. Moved by Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Good afternoon. Good evening, Randy.
Good evening. Good morning.
Randy
almost.
Alcorn?
This application has been around for some time, and we've gone through thorough review. Following our last get-together with the area residents, we had a Colville Consulting do an MDS study, and that was submitted to the municipality. And Ms. Housen is referring to that study. And it concludes that the proposed plan of subdivision conforms with the MDS formula of the provincial government, Province of Ontario. Around that time when, and perhaps it was 4 months ago, there was emails back and forth between Mr. Crosland and myself, and I'm not sure who initiated them, but I know it was always my intent to send him a copy of the Colville report, and he can review it and understand it. And, you know, it's a bit complicated, and some of the MDS was just read out. It's not clear, but it's clear to me, having spent some time on it. So I sent the report to Mr. Crosland, and I did receive a email indicating that he wished Harry Chung, the owner of the lands, success. And I believe, I don't think I'm misstating it, but Mr. Crosland's memo was positive. And I felt that we had reached a conclusion. And so to hear this evening at the almost 11th hour, is I would have liked to have addressed it earlier. However, I think there's clarity here in the explanations that and the discussion that has been put forth, and I hope that satisfies council members to proceed to dealing with the resolution.
Great, thank you.
And I'd just like to add that in addition to the report that is being referred to, I also had discussions with the region about the applicability of MDS to just confirm the various conclusions.
Okay. Anyway, it's great. It's been going on for how many years? 20 years now? So maybe it's finally resolved and it's been a long time. Yeah, okay. All right, what would you like to do with this report? Somebody like to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Ballinger, second by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Amen. All right. This is report DS 3718 to Liz Housen. This is regarding draft plan of subdivision, part lot 27, concession 6, Uxbridge. What would you like to do with this, Council? Councillor Bryan?
Move the recommendation.
Seconder? Could I have a seconder first? Anybody second that? Okay. Councillor Ballinger second it. Question. Go ahead, Court.
When this came forward, Liz, we had the similar thing tonight of a sidewalk being along there all the way into Toronto Street. Is that guaranteed in this?
There's a walk at the beginning, but they will link, they're going to build a sidewalk all the way along the south side of Elgin Mills.
To the Rexall Plaza? Is that the intent?
Sorry?
All the way to where Rexall Plaza is?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Because
and that's a condition. That's a condition of draft plan approval.
Yeah. Okay. I was curious about that. Thank you.
Any other questions? It's moved. Councillor Barton.
No.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. I know you're shaking your head out there. Evandale was on an addendum. Don't worry, it's coming up. We haven't forgotten it. Well, I know. Well, sorry. We'd all like to be home right now, probably. This is a report PWO 4318. Karen Rail, this is regarding the small drinking water tender. Somebody like to move the recommendation? Councillor Bryan, second by Councillor Barton. Any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. This is report CA 1318 Ingress Fellness. This is regarding the Red Barn at 19 Railway Street. Comments or questions? Councillor Hyatt, move the recommendation.
The recommendation.
Second by Councillor Barton.
You want to do two buildings, right? Want to look at both. We should look at both.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great. We have a mover and a seconder. Debbie? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. On the addendum, see, we weren't that far out. but there is one in front of it. Reports to Councilor CAO 1118 of Ingris Falmouth. This is Main Street funding. This is tabled during the regular meeting of June the 18th. What would you like to do with this report? Somebody make a motion to lift it from the table, please. Councilor Hyatt, seconded by Councilor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Somebody like to move the recommendation? What would you like to do with this? Councilor Bryan, move the recommendation, seconded by Councilor Barton. Any questions?
I think the recommendation speaks to what do we actually want to spend the money on. So-
Absolutely. Yeah.
She's got 15 for bike racks, which I think everybody's good with.
Yep.
Now, do you want anything beyond that, Ingrid, or do you want to just keep the money in?
Basically,
escrow?
$15,000 towards cycling activities and $38,980 to be reserved for downtown revitalization when that exercise is
Okay.
completed towards the end of the culvert project.
Great. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now, report DS 3818 of Liz Housen. This is, Evandale Developments. Council, what would you like to do with this? Councilor Hyatt, did you make a somebody like to make a motion? Somebody's got to make a motion. Yeah. So we did the resolution already, right? Good. I'm gonna let I'm gonna ask this lady if she wants to say anything. What are you gonna do with this, Councilor Hyatt?
I'm concerned, excuse me, during the public meetings over accessibility and creating more green space. Liz, did you, I think if I missed it,
So
was it in your report?
yeah, if you turn to page
Okay.
7, under the analysis,
Yep.
going on to page 8, I am responding to the concerns raised by the public.
Mhm.
So additional green space was provided with a parquet
With
in the northeast
parquet,
quadrant,
okay.
which also provides direct access to the planned trail. There is an overall reduced density, so the number of units was reduced from 94 to 88.
Mhm.
And I think actually more significant in terms of the feeling of the development, a number of bungalow townhouses were introduced to the development.
Okay.
There was a concern with the final design and aesthetics of the development. This development will be subject to site plan, and the designs will actually, I believe, come before council in terms of the elevations. You'll be able to sign off on it. There's additional visitor parking being provided, and we're in the process of once there's a draft plan approval, the issue of snow storage will be more closely looked at. And as you heard earlier today, that's a detail that will be looked at once we get into the details. The fire department has reviewed the plans and has identified no concerns with the emergency access. As a condition of development, consideration will be given to the design of Harima Boulevard and potential traffic calming measures on the street. And some of the discussion you had earlier, I think, will be some of the things that will be looked at on the design of that street to make sure that it's designed so it doesn't encourage people to speed down there.
So when would we know that, at the draft plan stage, or?
It'll be part of the
So that was
the
a concern
details.
for the people there, right?
But I know there's already been discussions between Ben Kester and AECOM about what can be done to make sure that street is not a traffic flyby zone. And there will be, of course, ongoing discussions with the region to get lights at Harima and Brock Street. It's a regional. It's always been considered essential that there be a light at that intersection once it's relocated.
Do we know where that discussion is, or is it progressing, or?
I don't know that. I just know that it is priority number 1.
So I'm just thinking if you're
Nothing,
adding,
nothing's happening here until
if
that
you're
light.
adding a new breed, if you will, of young families who are crossing to get to
Yeah.
that public school, it's,
Yeah.
it's,
No, no,
it,
and
it
I
needs
mean,
to be there, you know?
it's
what I mean?
totally, I mean, in my discussions with ACOM, and I've said, I mean,
Right.
this cannot go ahead until
Until
there's a
that's done.
commitment to putting
Good.
that light
Thank-
in there.
Thank you for
For
that.
sure.
Good.
There's a greater variety of housing, including bungalow townhouses. We do permit, the township does permit now second units, so that, one of the issues that was raised was trying to get some more affordable housing, and of course, second units is a way that you can do that. The township, as you know, is in the process of initiating, inclusionary zoning, but it won't happen before this happens, because we have to do an official plan amendment, and there's a whole process we have to go through. So there's no way of requiring affordable housing other than the permissions for the second units. And there was also concerns about environmental efficiency and sustainability. It's my understanding that the upgrades to the Ontario Building Code actually bring the any building that's being built up to a very high degree of environmental efficiency and sustainability. And depending on when these units are built, that will only increase, because there's already plans in place to upgrade the building code on a regular basis. So.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, and I still struggle with the density of this one. It's really tight. You know, we had a great display of what it was gonna look like early on, asked lots of questions, and now we get, you know, a lot of data, a lot of reports, but we're now approving it without a great view of what this is gonna look like.
So,
just, I don't love the
there will be, before, this is not the final approval. This is draft plan approval and zoning with a holding on it.
Okay.
And so this cannot go ahead until the township, in conjunction with the region, is satisfied with the plan.
But
And
we're approving 88 homes here, right?
Sorry?
We're approving 88 homes here.
Yeah, that you're approving the principle of this development, but you're not, it's not in any way the final approval. There is many miles to go.
Okay.
And that will include, as I said, detailed plans, design plans that will come back to this council.
So can we at some point in time in the future say that's too many houses?
If you have good reason, if you're not satisfied that it will work, basically.
Yeah, but
Go ahead, Councillor
yeah,
Barton, go ahead.
so we could say that's too many houses, but we've already basically said yes to 88. You know, there's not enough grass is not really a good reason.
No, not put that way, but in terms of the functionality of the, you know, of the parking, of the streets, you know, if we can determine that isn't gonna function for whatever
Your mic turned off.
reason, yeah.
Okay, so I'm still struggling without seeing in any real visual format. We haven't seen what it's gonna look like with 88 homes. We've seen what it looked like with 94. And we're now saying, we agree to 88 without seeing how it's gonna work, how it's gonna function.
You can make a
Sorry,
motion,
David.
you can make a motion to table the report if you want more information on
Okay,
it, David.
so how about this,
Liz, you gotta go to the
You have to
mic,
go to your
sorry.
mic, or come to mine.
My father always said I had a very caring voice.
But they can't hear you on TV.
You can't hear it on YouTube.
They're a long way away, Liz.
So the plan isn't gonna show you the graphically what the streetscape looks like.
Yeah.
But it will show you the bird's eye view.
Okay,
If-
well, it's certainly better than
Yeah,
the,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I apologize, we're talking about this at, you know, after 10 o'clock at night, after we've gone through 450 pages of data.
So I've been at too many council meetings in the last 2 weeks where I'm talking about things after 11 o'clock at night.
Well,
So
we won't
we're
be here at
doing
11.
well.
No, we won't. We'll be out of here.
I could lay it out, but you're gonna be the only one who will see it, so it's better if we can put it up on the screen.
Okay.
If it works. A musical interlude? Are you going home, Roger? You're not going home yet, are you?
Smoking a pancake.
So this is Harima Boulevard here, just to orient you. It's Brock. This is Low Boulevard. This is the, I don't know what you would call it, the ditch. Right. This is the mixed-use block here. So it'll have two buildings on the corner, and then there'll be parking in behind. And then these are the units, and unfortunately I can't see, but some of these have been converted to bungalow lots. Can you tell Councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, can you tell Councillor Barton from that plan which ones? Yeah. Right.
Dave, yeah, got
Cut
it.
those on. So blocks 2 and 3 are bungalows, and then blocks 6 and 5 are townhouse, and, and 4, and 9, 8, 7. I think everything else is down. I'm not helping at all. Do you wanna, you could probably need to up there.
Liz, do you want David to come up? Would that help you?
That may help, but I think it helps more if I can actually see this on the plan. So Councillor Barton is correct. Block 2 and Block 3 are bungalows. I think those are the ones that are the bungalows.
I don't know how this is helping you.
Yeah, so it's those blocks right there backing on the park.
So I don't know if that's helping us. We really don't have much of a picture of that.
No, and unfortunately, what you want is really something that the applicant showed in as part of the initial submission, which was
Exactly.
the pictures of the houses.
And a little bit of color.
And those will come back to you, you will get a chance to sign off on those. But we haven't had something for this plan as compared to the original plan.
I think, though, the issue is that once we approve this, the onus will then be on us to make the case to reduce it.
That's
the
correct,
I
yes.
think that's where we're going here. Councillor Bar-
So how about this? What if we made a range with 88 being the maximum? What if we approved this and said, up to 88?
That is what, so we didn't bring the zoning bylaw forward with this one, the draft zoning bylaws, but that is what the draft zoning bylaw will say. It will say potential maximum, but it doesn't mean that it has to be that.
But then again, if we wanted to reduce it, it's very difficult to do that.
Well, yeah, you have to have a good reason for it, not, I don't like the way this looks.
Right, it's a struggle for us to approve something that's gonna be there forever, affect all the residents.
Yeah.
Then perhaps where we're at is, if you wish, you have the option to table it and ask to have something more concrete to look at. That's the option you have at this point in time.
Again, I feel bad to hold this thing back. But,
I understand.
I guess it wouldn't just be me, it would be all council who would have to vote.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in fact, there is no draft bylaw with this report. So we have to bring forward the draft bylaw. We were intending to bring it forward in July. And you could direct that when that draft bylaw is brought forward, that some more detailed visuals be brought forward with it, so that you have that when you're considering the bylaw.
But you're still at 88.
But we're still proving now.
Are we still approving now 88, I think is his question. We're still approving 88 now.
You're directing, yes, that you're approving this, but the bylaw still has, I forget how I worded it in the report, the bylaw still has to come forward and be brought forward for your approval. So presumably, at that time, if you hate what you see, you can say, well, we're not taking that final step.
And then we'll go, okay.
When's the next council meeting after this?
July 16th.
July 16th is the next one?
That's correct.
Can we?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna make a motion to table this until we can get more data and get a really good feel for it, and
a different presentation sort of.
And we'll see what the rest of council thinks. I don't feel really comfortable approving 88 today.
Okay, could I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hyatt? Are there any other questions on the motion to table? July the 16th, absolutely. For a presentation, I guess. Who's gonna make the presentation, I guess? David, are you gonna, or Liz? I don't know who's gonna make the presentation.
Well, the applicant will have to prepare
arrange.
the visuals and bring those forward, yeah.
Okay. Comfortable with that? All those in favor? Carried. Alrighty. Where are we at here now? We bylaws now, Debbie? I think we are. Bylaws. What would somebody like to do with the bylaws? Somebody got them? Oh, committee minutes, sorry, there's a thing there to move the committee minutes of June 18th. Somebody like to move them? Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now, bylaws. Who has them?
I do.
Go ahead, Councillor
Bylaws
Bryan.
requiring 3 readings, first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger. That leave be granted to introduce bylaws number 2018-008 to 2018-095, and the same be read a first and second time.
Leave be granted, all those in favor? Carried. Leave be granted a third reading.
Third reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that bylaws number 2018-008 or 088 to 2018-095 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. What's left? We have this other business, unfinished business?
So there's another business.
One other business. I have one other business.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, the other business, we have the notice of adoption for our regional official plan. Somebody like to move that? Councillor Barton, seconded by Councillor Bryan. Are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. Is there anything on the addendum? We're done? Good?
Councillor Barton has
You
one
have
thing.
something else you want to bring up? Okay.
Yeah, just, I received an email from, Ernie, who's one of my residents. He's actually in the back of the room. He's got a 7-meter section of property beside him on, Raven Street Road. You've got a piece of paper in front of you, Councillor Maloney. Anyway, he would like to purchase it if possible. Again, because we're into the summer season, I would like to, make a motion to refer this to staff,
Okay.
to have them take a look at it and
Bring it
give
back.
us, yeah, bring it back to us.
Great. Moved by Councillor Barton, seconded by Councillor Ballinger. Any questions? All's in favor? Carried. Thank you. Unfinished business. Any? No other business? Press, any questions? Mr. Varley?
I'll try and make it quickly, but I got a few questions. A couple of simple ones to start with, Mr. Mayor. On Matthew Burley's deputation, how much did council vote to give him from the golf fund?
We just referred it to the golf fund. The golf committee determines how much.
Oh, they'll determine,
Yeah.
and he will get the skate park at no cost?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
we agreed to.
Just a small point, on Ms. Fellness's report on the red barns. There's some plans for those?
We want to establish that they're safe. We're a bit concerned about them. We're going to have engineers look at them and make sure that the buildings are safe. And once we get the reports back, then we'll determine what our next action will be.
And we've already had a report that was put on by the chief building official on the barn, on the north barn, that said he didn't feel that it was structurally safe. And as a result of that, council then referred it to me to get prices in order to hire an engineer, because we should really have an engineering report to look at a lot more than he looked at, and we're going to include both because we're concerned about the structural stability of those.
And depending on the report, are there any
Well,
plans
yeah, and the
for-
report is basically gonna identify what the condition is. From that point, then council's gonna have to determine whether or not they want us to pursue further investigation into the costs of what it will be to fix those barns, and whether or not those barns should maybe, who knows, be demolished, like the one to the north. No, you'd hate to think that, but the one on the north in particular, I think, is of concern to us.
Yeah, okay.
We have to wait till we get the information, and then
Yeah.
we'll determine
Okay,
what we're
just,
going to do.
that was just a minor point.
Yeah.
On the pump park, did I hear that the township is going to put forward $75,000 towards that?
Yes.
But if I recall, it was so many hours ago,
Feels like it was a day
you were
ago.
talking about the $75,000 being repaid over a number of years.
There's two pieces. We're putting in $75,000 as a township. Uxbridge Rotary is also putting in $75,000. They don't have the cash right now, so we're just sort of guaranteeing that funding until 2/20 when they'll pay it back.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And now, what I was trying to talk to Councillor Hyatt about on the other report, but it's all boiled down to one paragraph in Liz Howson's report here, with respect to affordable housing, and she's talking about the, where is it, the one on Heron Boulevard. With respect to affordable housing, the township is in the process of initiating the process of allowing for inclusionary zoning for affordable housing. But an amendment is required, and you haven't done that yet.
Ingrid could speak to that.
I'm assuming she's talking about this new Ontario provincial regulation that allows municipalities to ask for accessible and affordable housing.
Exactly.
So, why has township not yet made an amendment to the official plan to take this into account?
It's gonna take time to put it together, because it's gonna also affect zoning, so the council's gonna have to amend their official plan in order to get that done. It's gonna require Liz to work on that, as well as the zoning for it. It's probably gonna end up being something that may wait until the new council comes in, because there's only really 2 more meetings left. And there's a whole public process around changing your official plan.
Any other questions?
Yeah, because, I'm sorry, Mayor. I was concerned that when we were talking about the other development on Reach Street, I didn't hear, and they're talking about putting townhouses in there, $700,000 to $900,000, and I didn't hear one word from anybody on council about affordable housing.
Well,
If I could, one of the discussions that took place when we talked about inclusionary zoning was the need to get it done before the Phase 2 lands come on board. And that was the goal that council had established. So when the region determines and the township determines that Phase 2 properties, which there's 3 of them, could potentially come on board, the hope is that the inclusionary zoning would already be in place. And then that way, when we're going to have pre-consultation meetings with developers, we can advise them right from the very beginning that our official plan has the inclusionary zoning put right in it. But the one thing you have to remember with inclusionary zoning as well, because it is a public process and we're amending the official plan, it is appealable. So there is a real possibility, depending on who it is, that they may decide to actually appeal the township's official plan when it comes to inclusionary zoning. It's not as cut and dry as one might think.
any other questions? No, thank you. Moya? No? No other questions? Everybody's done, right? No one wants to talk anymore. I don't blame you. Any questions from the audience?
You know, it's this time I moved up to the front.
Good.
It's Gail Sanderson. Since Jack said that he wasn't going to be continuing on, and from what I can gather, when I just asked Debbie now about your future meetings for 2018, she wasn't aware of any more night meetings. So I wanted to say in public that my husband doesn't have to drive me to another Uxbridge meeting until I guess December the 4th. If you're just having 10 o'clock meetings, 10 o'clock a.m. meetings, which saddens me that there won't be at least one night meeting in September, so I can see all of you again. So I just want to, since I always give you guys chocolates and everything, since I won't see Jack, I guess, in this kind of form, I'm giving him a piece of chocolate now for saying goodbye.
Great. Could we have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councillor Hyatt, second by Councillor Beach. Don't need a seconder anyway. Oh, confirming, sorry.
Confirming bylaw, first and second reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that leave be granted to introduce bylaw number 2018-096, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting of June 25th, 2018, and the same be read a first and second time.
Leave be granted the third reading.
All in favor? Moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that bylaw number 2018-096 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
All in favor?
Is that any faster?
Move to adjourn, Councillor Martin. Good night. Good night.